a playlist original.
Congratulations to Back to the Blockbuster for 100 episodes. Can't wait for 100 more and to talk more movies.
Hey Gaius, Owen, and Jackson. This is Darren here from Darren Movie Reviews. Just wanting to wish the three of you a huge congratulations on 100 episodes of Back to the Blockbuster. I can't believe you've already hit that milestone, and I can't wait for the next 100 episodes. You guys do such great podcasts. You're always top of my list of must listen to every week, especially those deep dives, Owen and Gaius, even though if you are making my watch list grow exponentially because of them. Congrats, here's to the next 100, and can't wait to be back on the podcast with you guys soon enough.
Hey, this is Tony Santiago from the Real Spotlight and Dancing with Dragons podcast. Wanted to congratulate the crew at the Back to the Blockbuster podcast for reaching their 100th episode. When it comes to film, TV, and all things pop culture, the Back to the Blockbuster podcast is your one-stop shop. Again, congrats, guys, on your 100th episode.
Happy 100th episode, guys. Gaius, Jackson, and Owen, it has been a pleasure being on a couple of your episodes in the past, and I hope we get to do it again very soon. It's Mark J. Parker from the Release Date Rewind podcast. Congrats on 100 episodes. I reached this special milestone on an old show I used to host, so I know a little bit of what it feels like. It's a lot of hard work, but you guys know it's also a lot of fun. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. So happy 100th, and I hope you have 100 more. I'm sure with you guys, you crank them out. You'll get up to 200 in a couple months. Congrats.
This is actor and precision driver Ty Ippolito. I had the pleasure of guest hosting the Fast and Furious episode recently. I'm a big fan of the podcast, and I had an absolute blast. Looking forward to being back in the near future, and congratulations on 100 episodes.
Hey, it's Dustin Ribka, and I want to wish Back to the Blockbuster a happy 100 episodes. 100 episodes, holy shit. What an accomplishment. Listen, I was going to send the Tito's vodka and the gourmet popcorn, so maybe on the 200th episode we'll send it, but congratulations, guys.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the 100th episode of Back to the Blockbuster. Usually I say with your hosts Gaius and Jackson, but the whole team is here today. Myself, Jackson, and all the way from the Deep Dive spinoff, our boy Owen Erickson.
Let's
who
go.
Started this little engine that could with me almost 2 years ago. So yes, how does it feel to be at episode number 100?
Man,
It is a
surreal.
milestone.
It is a milestone. It's crazy. I'm happy to have been here. I know I kind of jumped in around halfway, but like just to have been going through this experience with you guys and to finally be here after talking about it for so long, it's like I can't believe we're finally filming it. It's awesome.
I know. I feel like
Yeah.
we built it up a really long time. It was a big build up to this episode 100.
There was.
Even like, in private conversations before you guys even like were on episodes together, like we started talking about it then, and then it felt like it was going to take a while to get there, because I remember when Owen was like, well, I want to do an episode with Jackson before we hit 100, and it's going to take this many weeks for that to happen. But then it felt
Yeah.
like we doubled up on episodes a lot, and
That's right.
then it got here a lot faster than I think we all anticipated. But happy it's here though. It's a
Yeah,
pretty
no, it's crazy.
big occasion.
100 is interesting because when it comes in terms of weeks, you don't really think about how long that actually is in the scope of time. And so like, I don't know, thinking about like, oh, how quickly can we reach 100? I mean, 50 weeks, 100 weeks, like that's a long time to be doing something. So it feels good.
yeah.
It feels like there's a lot of work that we put into this, and it's like all the ups and downs that have come through it. It's been fantastic, and it's just where we are right now is unbeatable.
Not to mention the trajectory of the show. Like it's one thing to do it for 100 weeks consistently, but to have grown, to have changed, to have adapted, to have gone through adversity. Admittedly, like I haven't really been around for anything like that, which grateful to be able to say, but it's like that's definitely a milestone in itself. Like boys have gone through a lot. So
Oh, yeah.
pat on the back
yeah.
is due for the back
For
blockbuster
sure.
team.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like Owen said in our group chat, it's been quite the journey, and it, for the most part though, like it's all been really fun, and like I'm glad that we got here, and I'm glad the show is at where it is now. It did It has evolved a lot, and we can talk about that a little bit in the beginning of this. And I was wondering because I did the 1 year one with Owen, and then we're doing this one, and I was like, which one feels more significant? Is it the first year, or is it this 100 episode thing? And then I was told by a lot of people, a lot of podcasts don't hit 100 episodes until like their second year or a little after their second year.
Okay.
So I
We're ahead of
feel like
schedule.
even though the year was great, we got you back on that episode for the 1 year, but this feels a little bit more significant. I think it's just
I think so,
culmination of a lot of work. And yeah, and like I said, I can say once Jackson got on, and then once we did the spinoff, like both shows have worked really well together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Enough
the
where we
biggest
got a question on the deep dive saying, are you guys going to do another show?
yeah, yeah. You guys gonna spin it off again? It was so funny because I have to share some stuff that playlists sit with us, but they sent something along those lines like, "Oh, we could see this doing like even more with like another show," and I was like, "Well, I'm glad that you guys have such faith in us."
Yeah.
Their idea is something like really shorter and like what actually I think Jackson, you kind of suggested this like a while ago about doing like if there's stuff that we missed, we can do like, let's say we miss a big trailer, is there like a 5-10 minute
reels and sort of thing? Yeah.
We can do, and that's kind of something along the lines that they were thinking of.
Great.
But yeah, I mean, this is amazing. This is awesome. The biggest compliment we've gotten is that since you've been on, I know I keep like patting you on the back, Jackson, but since you've been on, they said the show has been remarkably consistent and that it feels like a brand new show. Like it feels like there's a lot of new energy, and they feel it from myself. They feel it from Owen when he's on this one, but they also feel it when, he's doing the deep dive spinoff too. Because they all work together, so we both feel really good about it as well.
Yeah, well, that credit should go to you, my man, because this is the decision that you made, and I'm happy you made it the way that you did, because 100% I agree with them. Like the show does, I mean, I had been a listener briefly before coming on, but completely see what they're coming from. Like the show does have a life to it, but that was all down to your expertise.
Hey, well, you stepped up to the plate, man. So it's all we're all trying to pat each other on the back a lot.
That's right. Teamwork makes a dream work at the end of the day. Right? Like none of this would be what it is without each other.
Benefit of the doubt. I think this is a collaborative effort. It's just been
you're 100% right. It is.
We've all done. So yeah, it's a big milestone. I think that it takes a lot of work, and we've all done it. We've all put it in, and
right.
I think that I know it sounds super cliche, but sometimes it doesn't feel like it when you're having fun and when you're consistently putting in when those episodes, when you have to edit stuff out and try and keep the timing down, that's when you know you're on a roll. And when you're like, oh gosh, like we need to shorten this up a little bit, because it's just like,
you can just keep going and going and going.
I got a compliment the other day where someone said, how do you talk so like for that long? Like there's no pause. You guys it's just so flowing. Like there's no awkward silences. It's just constant.
It's and I when you love what you're doing.
I didn't have an answer. I had no answer. I was like, it just feels like you're just having a conversation with friends.
Yeah. It's so funny because that's one of the questions that you two got for later. Is how you guys, because they're like, Gaius, you work in this, like you kind of already been involved in it. I've had like a little practice doing it, but like, you guys, it's just like, you guys are just like movie lovers but can carry a conversation. But like, I think the question is very interesting. They're like, how are they able to kind of keep up in a good way? They meant it like in a positive way, but that'll be something you guys can like focus on a little later. But yeah, I think that's interesting that someone said that to you. Like, how do you, I mean, it's easy when you get along and it's easy to talk. I mean, I think the first thing I noticed about Jackson when he got on was there wasn't any of that, even from the first guest thing that he did, which is why I was like, I think work out pretty well if he did this every week. So that it was a really easy, I mean, there were other people I thought about who are friends to the show, and they would have been great too. But I think
no doubt.
I think I trusted my gut, so it was a good choice in the end. Well, I'm kind of wondering, like, how do we celebrate your 1 year? Is your 1 year episode 66 where you guest, or is it 68 where you actually became like an official?
We'll have to hammer that out sometime and determine that. I hadn't even ever really thought about that, but that's definitely that'll be definitely a different sort of milestone for the show.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. And talking about how Jackson got on and how this is a lot of work. I think in the beginning when Owen and I talked about it, we didn't know exactly how much work it would be. it like really was like this kind of tangible idea between two friends who like talking about movies. It kind of, I saw the potential in it because like we could like the first time we actually hung out like 101 and watched 25th Hour together. We thought we wanted to watch Red Sparrow. Nice. That wasn't the move. And then we put on Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And what we kind of realized during Mr. and Mrs. Smith, since we already had seen it, all we did was really like commentate over it and kind of make
it was like a director's cut kind of thing.
Yeah, you're right.
It kind of made
like those experiences.
And not made fun of it in a bad way, but there was a lot of banter over it. And I was like, oh, we can like actually talk like this like easily. Yeah. And then we kept kind of doing that. And then that's where the idea kind of was like, all right, well, wouldn't it be cool if we had a podcast? Like, yeah, that'd be really cool, but it's a lot of work, and I don't have time to do anything like that. But we still like the idea of it,
right?
And the opportunity presented itself.
Yeah, playlists came in like little angels and messaged me on G-Reels about do it. pretty much.
The stars aligning, like that's awesome.
But you have to understand though, I get a lot of messages on there they can be kind of scammy, like, oh, like try this idea, we want to pitch this to you. I couldn't tell like if it was legit at first, because I mean it really did sound too good to be true. Like you can create all the content, you own whatever the name, the copyright is, like you don't have to edit, we'll do it for you. Like
that does sound too good to be true.
Yeah, we're thinking long term because we're developing this app and we want to build up, we want to have like a lot of shows already in line before they launch it. So I kind of got the idea, but it still sounded too good to be true. And I remember I told Owen about it, and I think he even got the vibe that it sounded a little too good to be true. But he was like, look,
that's how it feels like being described to me.
Yeah.
But like maybe look into it more.
I was like, but let's look into it. Like let's check. Let's give it a chance. If there's like, I mean, we're not signing any contracts or anything yet. So it's, I mean, as long as we're not giving our social security number or anything, I think that it's good to give it a chance.
Yeah, and they honestly, when I was like, all right, well, let's check out the website. They had a really good website, and they had other shows. I think that was the thing that helped me a lot is I messaged other people who had podcasts with them, and one of them is actually pretty decently big. Well, he's actually really big. He's, depending on how you feel about, I think his name is Matt Ramos. He's like the Real Soups on Twitter. He has a huge following. He had a big show with them with another guy, and I think they kind of parted ways creatively, and that show's not on there anymore. But he was one of the people that actually did message me back. I was surprised that he did, because his following on Instagram and Twitter is crazy big. But he was like, no, yeah, they're legit. I talked to another show, I think 2 or 3 other shows that were like, no, they've been really good to us so far.
Okay.
So that made me go, all right, well, if they're saying yeah, like they're not being like, no, it's not legit, then
right.
I was like, seems like it made sense to do it. So I was like, all right, well, let's see what you guys are offering. And they sent me like a podcast agreement again that said that like whatever we came up with, we own the rights to. Like they weren't, you know, if they were ever to part ways with us, we would still own the name and like all that other stuff, right? And they initially pitched me on a 13 episode season 1. That's how the idea was pitched to me. And they're like, if you are successful in those first 13, we'll keep you on for another season. Now, of course, the way you guys have seen, we haven't broken the show up in the season. Some podcasts do, but I think we were approaching episode 13, and I had to message them like, hey, so are we still going to do this or what? And they were like, no, like we were actually going to get to you. Like we already seen tremendous growth, and we want to keep you on for what would be a second season. And I think what they felt would be a second season was 13 more. And then after that, they stopped kind of pitching me on the 13 each season thing. And they were like, just keep going. Like do what you're doing, because there is like substantial growth like every month. So keep doing what you're doing. Just create content for us. And so that's what I did. I didn't know what the show was doing
winged it. We literally
for a good 2 or 3 months. It was
an idea. Let's talk about something, and we just kind of morphed into a lot of different things.
Yeah, we talked about it before. The original idea felt more like what the deep dive stuff is.
Yeah,
that was kind of like, oh yeah, we could talk about like an individual movie and like, you know, do it that way.
Back to the Blockbuster Approved was another thing that we had kind of talked about as well.
Yeah,
kind of early on.
Which I'm excited to do that today.
Yeah, no, it's a fun little segment. But then I think like just a lot of it was just small and different sort of changes that came very gradually. It wasn't like one day we kind of were like, hey, this is what the show is today. It was
Right.
just kind of what were we talking about at the time. And I think a lot of it started to gravitate into, because there was so much going on in the news at the time that we started. Like there was just all this crazy things that were happening, that we just started talking about it, and it kind of like
Yeah.
morphed into what that is today.
Yeah, we kind of came in at the right time, industry news wise.
Yeah.
Because even though because movie theaters were kind of getting back to normal a little bit, like gradually getting back to normal, like movies were coming out again. I mean, like when I was looking back at like trying to get everyone's episode count, like in the beginning, it was like already like the Oscar stuff. It was like the Will Smith thing.
My God, that would have been so awesome to have been on the show for that.
Our first episode talked about
that was good.
No doubt.
Our first episode talked about the Vin Diesel Rock feud, which is now
yeah, that's right.
interesting.
How is that? Yeah, that's come full circle. Eh?
That's come full circle, which is kind of talk about a little later. And there was a lot of big stuff that was going on, but I don't think, and Owen kind of feels this way too, especially when we talk about doing the spinoff. It wasn't necessarily supposed to be like a news show. I mean, that's kind of how it kind of progressed. And that is basically not copying anyone. I was just like, okay, well, what are other people doing? I kept getting advice from other people doing podcasts on Twitter. You have to stay relevant. You have to stay topical. So you have to talk about like everything that's currently going on. But then I'm watching other people's shows who are very specific, and they have like, it's like a 80s theme or a 90s theme, or they just talk about like horror movies, or they just talk about romantic
you're gonna have
comedy.
people that like that sort of thing. They're gonna stick with you, like your niche, right?
Right. So I was like, there's room for that too. Like we could be both, which is
we don't
why
have to say one.
which is why the anniversary episodes kind of kicked in. Scream was our first one.
Yeah.
That was the one. Yeah, that was our first one. That's the first one we had like guests on. I think we had like 3 or 4 people on that. And
didn't we just have? Was it just 2? Well, I know we had Antonio.
Well, we had Meg the Geek.
Oh yeah, that's right, Meg.
And then we had Jake from So Wizard Podcast. Mark that was Mark's first episode with us too. And then we had one other person. I'm sorry if I'm blanking, because I always get this one confused.
Donnie,
no, Donnie was on the Scream 2022 episode, maybe he was, which is why it's like Mark is on that episode too. So I always get them. I get those both mixed up because they're both Scream related. Right. But the Scream anniversary one was our first big episode where it felt like it got shared a lot. And that's when I first noticed Good Pods too, like how that was kind of going. I think we were nervous in the beginning to have guests, and then how do I reach out to them? But it really was as easy as I would join like a group on Twitter or Instagram, and they will help you find guests, or they're like, hey, like we have a similar podcast, we would love to be on your show, or would you like to be on ours? So it was a lot easier than I thought to get guests, to the point in the beginning when we were actually asking guests, I had to stop putting on Instagram stories because so many people were asking to be on, and then I would have to tell certain people no.
That's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah, I might feel bad saying like, oh no, we already have enough, and then having to pick and choose who's on it. But I think anniversary shows kind of planted, and then the deep dives too. I mean, of course, that plants the seeds for stuff that happens later. But I think those were the early signs that the show could be multiple things and not just one thing.
Yeah, we just kept trying new things, I think.
Yeah, variety is the spice of life.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that we were kind of winging it. I mean, credit to Bev's Video Kingdom when they emailed me about the promo swap, and they told me that they did 17 test episodes before they went live. So they just recorded 17 that didn't get published, that they were just kind of like practicing on. And I look back on it now, like, should we have done something similar?
I'm happy with everything
I'm
that's
happy with how it came out. Yeah. I mean, again, it was trial and error. I mean, we didn't always get it right, but I think it was, I think people kind of got that too when listening to it, that they were like, okay. And they could see like eventually there was like growth, and we evolved and adapted to talking about a lot of different things. Owen got a lot of credit in the beginning because it was very clear like what the roles were. Like, oh, like Gaius, you work in the industry, you work in press, like this stuff. Much like Jackson, Owen's just a casual moviegoer. But he got a lot of credit in the beginning for still being aware of like what was going on. And even if he wasn't fully aware of on a topic, he still would like listen and like could still chime in on it. And that's not easy to do for some people, because like sometimes we would have guests and they would be like kind of quiet until they they had their like, all right, I know this thing, I can jump in on that thing. Even if like Owen did a whole episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer with us, and that wasn't his
never
thing.
seen it.
Never, but he did it. but he did it as a solid and got his sister on it, who was a fan of the show.
Huge fan, yeah.
And then he basically at the beginning was like, "Hey, I am here to piggyback off of all of you and ask questions based on like what you guys are talking about."
Yeah,
And
I'm like, hey, listen, I like sci-fi stuff. I love the Sci-Fi Channel. I love those like sort of niche shows like The Magicians. Like, let's hear like, what's your take on this? What's your take on that? Like, I am not afraid of a conversation, especially an awkward conversation sometimes. So I have no problem, no problem talking about some stuff that I have no idea about because I just like to learn about those things.
yeah, and Donnie always references this when we had the Scream 2022 episode and you were on it and you didn't see the movie. You were the only one that didn't see the movie. And when we got to spoilers, Donnie was like, wait, you sure you want to like turn off your headphones or like go away for a while? And you're like, no. But you're like, I figure one of them's Jack Quaid though. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah. Yeah. So you knew one of them. And you're like, whatever.
Like,
you guys
called it.
you guys can talk about it. It's fine. But yeah, like I said, like even if you weren't keenly aware of what the topic was, you're able to still talk about it because you like listen and you're aware of stuff. So I think that was the cool thing about how things started and like kind of going back to those old episodes. And then Jackson, you're the same way too. Like there's certain times when you're like, hey, I didn't see this. I'm not too familiar with this movie or whatever. But you also
I like to learn.
Yeah, but you also are like, hey, but I can talk about it. And also very easygoing with me on the movie anniversaries. Even like I'm like, hey, can we do this one? And you're like, sure.
Hell yeah.
There's no fighting, no pushback. You're like, I haven't
especially
seen
if there's
it.
something that I haven't seen. I like
Like, I'll watch
most of my watches are first time watches. Like that's just how you expand your vocabulary, your familiarity with movies, if you will. So I'm happy to, and they're always great suggestions. Like I was actually just thinking the other day about Wild Things and how much I loved that watch. And that was my first time. And that was an awesome episode that we did together. And it was just fantastic. So no, I'm always down to see something.
Pretty good taste.
Yeah, absolutely. We do.
No, you guys definitely do have pretty good taste. And to kind of look back, I was talking about the episode count. Owen, including this one, 37 episodes of the show. Jackson is just right behind you. If I got the count right, I think it's like 34. So pretty
okay.
And it's sneaking up. And for both of you, I know you've only been on one episode of the spinoff, but this does not include the episodes of the spinoff. But still 37 episodes. 37 episodes of something is a lot. I mean, it is a lot when you think about how much you kind of do like week after week. And I've been here for all 100 of them, and that's just by necessity, guys. So that's not a
series name. Yeah.
Not a bragging moment at all. Yeah, I mean,
props to you, man.
Yeah,
You're
it's
the foundation of the show, brother.
Yeah,
I know. If this was a real TV show, I would have like syndication rights right now. It'd be like 100 episodes,
and then you'd go on strike so that we could each get $1 million an episode.
There we go. Of course, I would. But kind of, Owen, for you, looking back on those early days of doing it, what was a highlight, and then what was kind of something you didn't expect to be as maybe difficult as it was that you kind of appreciate a little bit more now in hindsight?
Yeah. I honestly think that it has helped me expand the way that I am able to talk about things. Being able to listen to myself and being able to dictate and describe something without saying being able I think those first couple episodes, I was automatically worried about saying that kind of stuff. So it kind of made me think a little bit more about what I was saying, maybe slow down a little bit, not try and like speed up the way that I was speaking and try and say something that I actually meant while also like actively listening to someone else. So it's honestly helped me in my personal life too, just being able to speak with someone about like anything and having a better vocabulary and like, well, just honestly, just like not saying like and all the time.
It's a hard thing to
do, and it's a really hard thing to hear yourself because you don't think about it when you're just speaking normally. But when you're able to listen back to it, and sometimes you just kind of get this, every time you hear it, you kind of get that little cringe moment.
I kind of cringe sometimes too.
Yeah, you're like,
but then it makes you
said
just want to like
way too many times that episode, and then you're thinking about it the next one. So that's been a really great learning experience for me. But then also just learning a lot about things that I did not know about the industry, and having the ability to, I think it's really changed my view on how I look at movies and how I watch them now and what I'm looking for, and also just changing my viewpoints on what I like and what I don't. There are certain things that I think that I used to really like, and now I look back on it with a little bit of a different critical lens, which is really cool and really interesting. But it's also made me find some things that I probably never would have chosen to watch and just absolutely loved. So it's been a really great growth experience, not just from the way that I'm able to speak about things, but also just what I love about movies and what I love about the industry. So it's been a really cool experience to see myself grow within the last year and whatever it is, 100 episodes. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I told this to this guy, David Gonzalez. I used to write for him when it was Real Talk Inc. And I think it just recently turned to like the cinematic reel, but they had a podcast attached to their website. And in the beginning, I was kind of like a hired hand to like be on the show with them because I was writing with them. And I have to say that like I didn't take it as seriously as I probably should have, because it was their thing and I was just on there, every Sunday. And they had to record really early because it was East Coast time, so it usually would be at like 7:00 in the morning on a Sunday. And I actually told him, because he's been a guest on the show since all this, and I know there was like a little bit of a tiff because I think he kind of felt like I didn't take it seriously enough. And I actually apologized to him and actually did it on the show and said, like, this is a very hard thing to do, to organize it and schedule it and get everybody on the same page. Doing it myself now, I would approach how I did theirs a lot differently now. And that's the biggest thing I've kind of seen from doing this myself, is that, yeah, it's fun. Like, don't get us wrong. It's really fun. And we get to goof off with each other and talk movies and nerd shit. And it's great. But even though we don't edit the show and all that, it's still a lot of work to figure out what you're going to talk about and keep up with everything that's going on. That was always going to be like, when I brought Jackson on, that was like, I think I said something like, to be okay, like keeping up with this stuff like week after week, because I know that was, and you were good about it. You were totally good about it.
Like, I mean, that's when I do it on my day to day anyway.
Notes.
Yeah, no, like writing down notes, and I think that was the hard part for Owen too. As it went on, it was, this is not like my career. This is not my life. And
the only thing was like towards the end, I will say, like, I was keeping up pretty well, but then there were certain things that were a little bit more niche in the community, in the industry, that I didn't know about. And like, you finish recording on Monday and then you have your week and then you have the weekend. And like by Sunday, I was like, oh my gosh, there's like all these things that I haven't really looked into. And then I would be like kind of struggling to keep up and trying to stay informed. And it just became a little bit more difficult to keep up with some of the stuff that I wasn't seeing on like maybe Reddit or Twitter or anything like that. Like a little bit more stuff that I don't follow those certain pages or don't speak with some of those directors or some of those movies. I'm not sure those coming out. So that was the thing that kind of just been like, wow, like there's a lot more going on here that I have no idea about. So,
you know what, actually, like me mentioning that, Owen, is like, definitely there's social media, like shit on it all the time for like how terrible it really is. But one thing it's awesome for is like the movie accounts. And there's a lot of like goated accounts, and I will send you a little list of ones that like just really help me keep up to date with the news and like other little niche things that I'll definitely like start taking some notes and like send some your way, because like they make it a lot easier.
Nice. Yeah, I would love that.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and even, I mean, I work in it and it's difficult sometimes to keep up.
There's
with
just
it.
so much, right? It's a whole
especially when it's
just the US. This is just the US.
Exactly. We don't even talk about some of the stuff
in Canada. Sorry, in Canada.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, it's difficult. And I think what also was an issue too in some of the early episodes is we felt, because we brought up a certain news story, that we kept having to update on it. So I'm using the Will Smith thing as an example again, but we talked about that a lot because it kept evolving every week. And then even because I had to write about it and then talk about it.
That would have been annoying.
And then it did feel like, and I think at one point we're like,
it gets a little exhausting sometimes. We're like, yes, we kind of have to talk about it again because something else came up. Yeah, but we've been talking about it for 3 weeks now.
Exactly. So I think like I think how Jackson and I handled like the Jonathan Majors thing, like,
yeah,
we're like, hey, here are 2 really big weeks this guy had, not great weeks, not for him. No. And until something major happens again, not going to bring it up. Because like
for Jonathan.
Yeah, right. There would be like a lot of little things that would kind of happen with that story. I'm like, it's not worth bringing up again until it was like significant.
No sense beating a dead horse.
Right. But in the beginning, we didn't know that because we were like, hey, people are listening and they like want to see, like, hear what we think about this stuff. And it really, I mean, we could have put some of those like early news stories like to bed pretty quickly.
Right. Hey, that's kind of living and learning, right?
Yeah. And then also, we didn't realize we still continue to talk about this. We there was a lot of Marvel DC talk, and then there was a lot of discussion about whether or not that's the only movie news going on. But sometimes it really
Sometimes it was.
Sometimes it feels
the
that way.
only, the only stuff going on. And then I kind of felt bad not bringing it up all the time, but it was like, this is what's happening right now. So we have to, I guess. But I didn't want to be like a movie podcast that only talked about mainstream stuff. And but that's kind of the nature of the beast. It's what making money, and that's what people are talking about.
It's mainstream for a reason.
Yeah. And I think also in the beginning, we tried to also be a podcast that would see like the new movie every week. And then that was too hard.
That is impossible.
Even for me.
That is an impossible task.
I mean, but we tried to do it with certain big movies. Like we saw the Batman like together, actually.
Yeah.
And talked about that. We saw Morbius together and talked about
that's
that.
a great episode.
It's more than time.
Yeah. Owen has a very epic rant.
Sometimes when I'm having a bad day, I go back and listen to it, and I'm like, yeah, that's right.
It's like,
I still never bothered to see it.
Yeah, because it was my turn next to talk after that, and I was like, I can't follow what he said. Like, I can't beat that. So yeah, good job. We all gave you a round of applause after it was over too. Yeah. I think Antonio was on that one too. He hadn't seen the movie, but he was like, everything I needed from what you just described just now. Yeah. We saw Doctor Strange, I think, too, together. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the So Wizard podcast, they do it. They see the new movies every week. And like I said, they haven't had a break in almost 460 episodes.
That's impressive too. Like there must be no downtime. I don't know what they like. And
whatever guests they have on are responsible for also seeing whatever the new movie is if they want to be on. So I mean, there is a lot of credit to be given to people that can do that. I'm actually happy that the show is now not necessarily like that. I mean, I'm sure there's certain big movies that will want to be episode centric. I'm sure The Flash might be one of them or something like that. But it doesn't have to be like every week. And we also kind of break it down a little bit in the beginning when we talk about what we watched. We kind of bring it, if I see whatever new movie came out or if he saw it, we talk about it a little bit in the beginning. And
I love that. I love being able to just say, hey, we saw this. Here's 5 to 10 minutes of kind of what we thought about it. Here's some critiques. Here's some loves. Here's some hates. Now let's move on to get what we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good segue way to start off an episode.
Yeah. It also, what I love about it is that I think it connects us with our listeners a lot because it just kind of shows. I mean, literally my favorite thing is when I'm in the car listening to it, it's like reliving a conversation with a friend. And so that's 100%. The kind of thing that I enjoy. So I'm imagining, like, hopefully, and I hope you guys think this way too, anyone who's listening out there, is that you guys feel like you're just out there hanging out with us because that's what we love to do.
It's a great way. Yeah, absolutely.
So just to kind of talk and start off the conversation, like you don't start a conversation by being like, all right, here's the agenda. It's like, no, like, what you up to, man? Like, how's it going? Like,
that's right.
A little bit, make sure things are good, what you see. So I like that. I like the way it's laid out now.
Yeah, and it's organic too. I mean, it's just natural, and like, of course, there is like a few bullet points, like, oh, yeah, we have to talk about this, but it's never like, let's talk about it this way and make sure we hit all these beats. It just comes up naturally, and that's what I love about the show. More recently, I would say in the last 34 some odd episodes, it's been like that completely. And I do want to give credit to, we've been really transparent about like what was going on with the show for a little bit. I think one of the positive things that kind of came out of when Owen stopped being on was I can get like a lot of stats and data about how the show's doing. But I've said this before, when people listening will actually message and say like, hey, like he hasn't been on in like a few weeks. Where is he? That's when I was like, oh, like people are like really listening to enough where they would know that he's been gone for like this amount of weeks. Mm-hmm. So that was a positive thing that kind of, I was like, all right, well, people are actually paying attention to it. And they actually seem to care about why he's not on, because like you said, it's almost like you've been hanging out with a friend for the last few weeks, or at that point like 30 something episodes. So it was a genuine like concern about like, oh, where is he at? Like, I hope everything's good. And I like that you
honestly
like that you allowed me to be as transparent as you wanted me to be about why you weren't on. And I remember I sent you a thing ahead of time like, hey, can I say this? And you're like, yeah, it's fine. It was an episode I did with Donnie on our own, and it went really well. And I think people like that were pretty honest about how like it wasn't always like sunshine and roses doing it.
Just like life, man. That point in my life, there was, just being fully transparent again. It's like not every single day is going to be amazing. Not every single month's going to be amazing. So definitely some things that I had to work through, but I'm back better than ever. That's kind of the way I'll put it.
Yeah, that's the good thing about it too. And I shared this question with Owen last week because I was going through the ones because we were going to use for the possibly use for the deep dive episode. But someone asked me if I would have kept the show going if he didn't come back in like any capacity. And I actually text Owen like, "Do you think I would have?" And he was like, "I'm pretty sure like your resolve kind of would have kept it going because you saw like what it could be." I'm glad I don't have to think about that now. I mean,
Yeah,
it all
totally.
worked out. It all worked out in the end. I think we're all much better for it. I would say like the whole situation with the podcast and the friendship and how it all kind of culminated with you leaving and then coming back, it opened up the lines of communication between us a lot more.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, just like tell me what's up and I'll tell you what's up and we'll be good. And I think we've kind of followed that ever since you've been back. And that's been like the really cool thing about having you back because you can tell there's a difference and like you're excited to do like the deep dive stuff. Like you are ready to do it, and then you're excited to like get to know Jackson and stuff like that too. You're like, hey, I kind
gave
of
him
feel
my
up.
pick, man. If that's
Yeah, you
not
did.
saying I'm excited for Jackson, like, come on.
You're like, I'm feeling left out of the main show. Like, let me pop on. Like,
Yeah.
Always a
but
spot
yeah,
for you here, buddy.
of course. And I'm just happy about where kind of headed and what we've been doing with it. I know at the end here we're gonna kind of ask each other what we want from the show, and then that's actually one of the two questions we got from people about what we want from the show in the future. That was already going to be brought up anyway, but I've been feeling pretty positive about it since episode 66, especially since episode 68 when Jackson officially came on board, and then of course when we started spinoff as well. So yes, this is a great to celebrate this kind of milestone at this point with both of you.
Couldn't agree more, my friend.
Yep.
Really cool,
Couldn't
really cool,
agree
interesting way.
myself.
Yeah, because I've already been friends with Owen for a while. I feel like Jackson and I are friends now too. So that's
Absolutely.
awesome. Sure, you guys
Very
probably feel the
unique
same way.
sort of friendship, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't say that I have this sort of like dynamic with anybody else, and I wouldn't want to share it with anybody else. And I'm just like, so I mean, I can hammer this point to death. I already have many times, but I'm just like so happy to be able to have this opportunity and share it. I mean, to jump in and share this thing that you guys have created, and you guys have been like totally supportive and welcoming of me on the team, and can never thank you guys enough for that. So thanks again.
Gotcha, man.
Yeah, there will be plenty more of that, I'm sure, in the coming weeks and months and years, but
Yeah.
always appreciative of you guys.
Once you pass 37, though, you can stop thanking us. Now you're officially a part
Now
of
you're
this
like,
team.
now
You're
you're
like,
like,
"Yeah, you passed me, so you don't have to thank us for being a part of it anymore."
yeah.
All right.
All right. So since Owen hasn't been on, all the episodes I've done with Jackson with some of the news and all that, we thought it'd be really good since he is Owen's opinions on Instagram. We need to get his opinion on some of the bigger stories that we covered.
I'd like to see what he would cook for this.
One of them, I chose this one because I actually got a lot of messages about it separately, like on G Reels, about how you and I, Jackson, should have been more upset that this was happening. But it involves Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Oh my fuck.
Yes.
So the story is HBO Max. I'm not calling it Max. It's not.
No,
it's not Max.
No, it won't catch.
It's still HBO Max. They are developing a Harry Potter TV series, and each season of the show, I guess, will be one book. So
The
each
only
book will be
good part of that idea.
will be a season of the show. The big debate was basically the movies. The last one isn't even that old. The last one that came out, if you really were to like think about it in time, I think you could ask about 99.9% of people, like, are those movies fine the way they are? Is as good of an adaptation as you can get? Most people would say yes. But I did want to ask you, like, is that a good idea? Are you intrigued by the idea of them turning each book into a season of television? Even possible to top what they would do, what they've done with the movies, like, at all?
Let it rip, Owen.
So yeah, I have a lot of opinions on this. So it's great because you're asking the biggest Harry Potter nerd ever. Like,
Oh, okay. I didn't know this about you.
That's why I did it.
Oh, he's
grew
read
up
the
with this.
books.
I've read each
too.
book. I've read each book probably 15 times
Oh boy.
and seen all the movies. So like, I know Harry Potter back to front. My brother and I, we do like Harry Potter trivia. We try and find the most infinitesimal detail and quiz each other on it when we're reading the books
That's
or something. So I will start with this. It is going to be utterly and physically impossible to recreate the characters that we fell in love with visually on a screen again. Finding another Harry Potter that mean, is automatic comparison to what these characters look like. People who maybe watch the movies and then read the books, you automatically have this visual thought of what Harry Potter looks like because you imagine Daniel Radcliffe. So doing it again in a different way with different actors is going to be impossible. Replacing Alan Rickman as Snape, impossible. There are certain characters that I think, yes, I could see other ones doing better at, maybe a different adaptation of it. But there are certain ones that, like Gary Oldman as Sirius Black, can't get better than that. Like there's just so many different actors that I have now come to believe and imagine, even after reading the books for many years, as these characters that I grew up watching the movies. And I think that could be a great way for younger kids who haven't really seen a lot of the movies yet, and they start by watching the show. That could be a great way to kind of introduce them. Yes, having an entire season for a whole book is going to bring out all of the details. But no matter what, you're going to have to embellish some things and change some things in order to make it visually representative of how you're going to do something. Having it be on HBO, maybe they're going to show some things that they might not wanted to show in the movies. I mean, it's still technically a children's book, but like maybe they'll show something that they didn't want to put on screen and got cut because it might have been R. Like, who knows?
Yeah, the climate will have changed too by the time the movies were being made in the 2000s too, that maybe they'll take some liberties and make it a little darker. We have yet to see, but
yeah. But it's always going to be great to see how a director and how something like putting magic onto a screen. Like there's a really great YouTube video kind of describing how magic changed throughout even just the movies based on the directorial adaptation of it. Like how like magic is not real. So you have to think about it in a certain way of like what it makes you feel, what it sounds like. Why does magic sound this way? Why does it look this way? So seeing a different adaptation of it, I'm all for it, no matter what. I definitely think it's a great idea, but I think it's going to get a lot of backlash, and it's going to be really hard, and it's impossible to recreate that.
Yeah,
to recreate it from
so no matter what, it won't live up to the original movies, is what you're saying.
I don't think so, because that's the original. That's going to be the way I
don't
grew up.
disagree.
That's why fucking Star Wars fans hate everything besides the original Star Wars, no matter what. So it's like, it's going to be really hard for me to say, oh yeah, that's better. But I'm always interested, like, it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be visually amazing. It's going to be really cool. Who doesn't like seeing wizards battle each other? Like, it's incredible. And Harry Potter does it the best way. So I'm ready for it. But it's I think the actor choice is going to be insane. Like, that's going to be
the hard part.
That would be a difficult part.
The next, like, when someone's like, oh, this guy cast as Harry Potter, it is going to get so much backlash.
Oh my God. I wouldn't even want to be that person, because you know they're going to get.
And they're going to be a child, so that's so like. Which is
well,
like,
it's going to be a lot.
Yeah, and like it's crazy. I mean, I think Jackson and I were intrigued by the idea of, yeah, you can flesh out a lot turning each book, making each book a season of TV. So that intrigued both of us.
I agree.
Then I kind of agreed with, like, someone posted it on Instagram and I reposted it on my story. It was a picture of all three of them: Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint, and they were like, hey, good luck replacing these three, because like it's going to be almost near impossible to find that magic again with those. You know, they were really, I mean, I didn't really feel this until I watched the like Harry Potter reunion thing they did on HBO Max.
Oh my God.
But like they came in
Tears.
pretty green, right? When they started, they didn't have any experience really, and we watched them grow. So it's really hard to like imagine anyone else playing those parts, because we watched them go from, like, you know, adolescence to like young adulthood, and that's kind of hard to shake sometimes when you're like, all right, I can't imagine anyone else playing these parts. And I just also don't feel like the movies are that old. You need to like go back and redo anything.
No, you know how the machine works. When there's money to be made, they don't care how old something's been, right?
And Warner Brothers, who is in charge of the whole Max stuff, is, and we've talked about this, it was buried in that same story, is that they basically want to resurrect all their IP and like kind of redo it, which is why
also too, I think like they can't do any of this without J.K. Rowling's approval. She's getting older. So if they're going to redo it, they have to have like
that is a whole other point of contention. She has done some.
She's evolved so much.
She has made some horrible retconning, weird decisions with that whole universe, and I'm wondering and worried of kind of like how much sway she's going to have in this series, because I can see that just getting derailed.
Yeah,
that's complete creative control. She has to. It's her.
And And then there's the issues, the statements she made about the trans community, which a lot of
Yep.
people, there were like a lot of images when this story broke of Warner Brothers basically like handing over money to the devil. They actually had her like dressed up as a cartoon devil, and like I get like they can't make it without her. Like
Right.
there's the rub. I mean, she has to be involved if they want to do it. So I did want to get your take on that because I know you're a big Harry Potter fan. Even saying that we were intrigued by it, like there were so many people that were like, "No, you should hate that idea." Like
I
don't
generally do hate it. That is the only. I'm intrigued to see what becomes of it. Don't get me wrong, but I would, if I could hit a button and say this is never going to happen, I would hit it. I would smash it.
It's like, here's the thing. I am such a Harry Potter fan that it's like, give me more. Like, yes, give me more. I love it so much that I want to see new things arise. Even though Harry
But
Potter
is this
Cursed
new?
Child is
Or is this imitation?
You're right. You're right.
That's how I look at it.
Okay.
Something that's already been done, like arguably perfectly or pretty damn
But
near
here's
perfect.
the thing as
Not
well.
that long ago, 12 years
I
ago.
am a serial rewatcher. I like to rewatch things. I've read the book so many
Agreed.
times, which means I still love the story. I'd love to see how someone else interprets it.
That's a good point too, and that's, you know what, that's been done with many properties before and done well. So you know what, touche.
Yeah,
touche. You're like, you got me there.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we see where you stand on that. You're okay with it, or you're just cautiously optimistic about it. The second one I wanted to get your opinion on. Our boy Jackson is a big Ari Aster fan. Hereditary, Midsommar, Beau is Afraid. One of the things that kind of came out after Beau is Afraid was released, where a lot of critics talking about how much artistic freedom should a studio give directors, and how much do they owe us as an audience. And I'm going to read this quote that this guy put on Twitter that I read to Jackson when we covered this.
Okay.
Yeah, my blood's boiling already.
The guy said, Ari Aster clearly never cared about entertaining typical audiences. Even his so-called good films are punishing. As a filmmaker, you have a responsibility to your paying customers above yourself. His movies are straight up masturbatory. Do you agree? Do you think that filmmakers have a responsibility to us as the paying customers to make something that is more accessible to the masses? Or should they be able to just make whatever they feel is creatively justifiable for them?
If we let directors, I'll start over. If directors' sole focus was to entertain us, we would have nothing but Marvel for the rest of time.
True.
It is like, and also like, they're great directors because they have great stories. I just watched this movie, what's it called? Hunt for the Wilder People, the Taika Waititi movie.
Oh yeah.
I could have never come up with that. I didn't know I wanted to see that. I loved that movie. It was amazing. But like, I don't have the creative ability to know that that's what I want to see. Like, I'm not a storyteller. I don't have that ability to find and create something. I can't write scripts. So like, I mean, I haven't tried, but there are so many different things that I haven't even known that I liked it or wanted to see it until I saw it on the screen. And so I think that is the freedom that directors should have, in the ability to like share what they want to get out there and share their love and share their creativity, in order to give it to the people that already know they like it, but also to introduce it to people that might not even know that it's something that they're into.
Yeah, this grinded Jackson's gears when I brought it up.
Oh, it grinded again, and this is just reinflating this conversation in my head. Just the one thing I want to mention as well, this is like, in vogue again. It's like, how can you say there's a responsibility attached to something that is subjective? Like, I love Ari Aster and loved Beau is Afraid. I didn't know necessarily how I felt about it when I was watching it, but I've come to appreciate it much more reflecting on it after the theater. And just because one person's going to love it like me doesn't mean that everyone's going to, and vice versa. So I just can't see how that person's argument, how you can say that he didn't care about entertaining people. I was entertained. This person clearly wasn't. I don't think that's right or wrong. It's just your own subjective take on it. Anyway, before I go way off on a tangent, I'm just going to leave it there.
No, it's true though. I brought this up to you. Like, I went to film school. I would want the creative freedom to do what I felt was right for my project. And
100%.
if a studio wanted to give me 100% creative freedom to make the movie that I really wanted to make, then they should be able to. A24 got called out a lot by a lot of critics for this same thing that this guy said, for basically giving him $35 million to make a movie like this. And they were like, hey, they've worked with him twice already. He's actually made 2 hits for them. Like, the movies that he made before this one, actually they made money off of. They turned a profit. So
And they're
this guy,
culturally iconic.
yeah. So A24, it's not Warner Brothers. They're not Disney. So like they are going to try to back the independent filmmaker a bit and be like, hey, like we trust your vision. Like let's just go with it. So why attack? I mean, it's not your money. So like, why attack a studio for like
100%.
giving a
I don't think
filmmaker
that person saw the bigger picture.
right? I totally agree. I don't think it's any studio or filmmaker's responsibility to cater to us. And I agree with Owen. If that was the case, we would have a lot of Marvel movies, a lot of DC movies.
We already do.
All Fast.
I know.
Furious, all Fast and Furious movies. It would just be popcorn entertainment. Not saying that there's not room for popcorn entertainment, because there is.
Right.
But why can't we have all of it? Why can't I indulge in this little like indie film that like, hey, everyone's not gonna love it, but like someone is gonna love it. Like someone is gonna be like moved by it and be like, hey,
listen, there is so much content out there nowadays. If you don't want to watch it, don't fucking go
exactly.
see it.
I was like, why are you guys there? I was like, why are you
There
guys...
are thousands, hundreds of thousands of movies out there that you can go and see instead. If you don't want to see it, don't go.
What killed me about this was, okay, it's your job to go see it, right? You're pressed, so you go see it. You see it once. You can put out there that like you didn't like it once, but then I'm watching for a good 2 weeks the same people bringing up all these different aspects about what they hated about the movie. I was like, hey, you hated it, we get it. For you to continue to drag it for 2 weeks makes absolutely no sense. And now it just seems like you're just
for you to hate it.
Yeah, and now it just
personally. This wasn't a personal.
On the same side of that coin, though, I like that this discourse is out there for us to respond to and have a conversation about. As much as I hate what this person says and I'm fueled by it, I still like that they have that duty to do it and to critique it, even if they didn't like it. So like, it's hard to know where to fall, like where I stand on stuff like this, but it makes for an interesting conversation.
Well, it's funny too, because I'm imagining this might just be my perspective, but if I was Ari Aster, like I would be not thrilled, but just like very intrigued by why people couldn't stop talking about how much they hated it. I would be like, yes,
I think that's a win.
Even though you didn't like it, you can't stop talking about this.
Yeah.
It's like this is living rent free in your brain about how much this bothered you. And he's like, that's why I made it. I made it for it to be disturbing. I made it for it to be something that's uncomfortable. And like, it's probably everything that he was hoping for. And a lot of people like it and a lot of people don't. So
there's no such thing as bad press, especially when it comes to like movies, right? Like if people are talking about your movie, you've done something.
Yeah.
Honestly, exactly. Someone's gonna see that movie out there, and it's gonna inspire them to want to make something. Like it's something. It's someone out there. It's not gonna be in like. There's certain things that I don't like. I won't watch again. And I honestly don't. I don't necessarily agree with the whole bashing something, kicking it while it's down. You know, Phil Lord actually put something out on Twitter right after Beau's Afraid came out and basically said, like, if people honestly understood how much goes into making these movies, they probably wouldn't be as critical about them in such a like negative way. You could say you don't like something without ripping it apart.
Absolutely.
I think
especially publicly.
Tom Holland said like he was kind of complaining to his brother, and he was given some interview and he's talking about his brother, and his brother's like, oh, did you have a tough day? He's like, yeah, like God, I'm so like today's shitty. He's like, oh wow, like yeah, you're a Spider-Man for the day. Like brought his brother to set and was like, you're gonna do all the stunts that I did today. And afterwards his brother was like, fuck that, I am not doing that again. Your life is not easy. Like that is not an easy job to do. So it's like the grass is always greenner. If you put yourself in someone else's shoes, like you just don't really know what everyone else is doing and all the hard work that it goes to
100%.
But also like it kind of made me think, I can't remember the name. Gaius, what's that movie that is out that is like so like disturbing and gory that it's like it's the third volume, I think.
Shoot,
Terrifier.
It's like what?
Oh, Terrifier. Yeah, that's coming.
Terrifier.
They're making it for one. Yeah.
It's like,
oh my God,
it kind of reminds me of that, where it's like I don't really want to go see that because I know I'm going to be like violated.
Yeah, like
if you haven't watched the first one, see what you think.
I'm like, but I mean, they're making it for a reason, and it's like they either enjoy it or they're trying to shock.
There's an audience that wants it. There's an audience out there that wants it. Like, and Jackson's
Jackson.
You know, remember he loved.
I can imagine you being all about those, Gaius.
Oh, I loved it.
I can't believe we've never discussed those. I don't think we've talked about those movies.
No,
before,
actually,
bookmark that.
Yeah,
bookmark that. Those movies are
October for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you know kind of what you will like and what you won't. Like like, I'm not gonna go see that. I'm gonna avoid it.
Yeah.
And yeah, some of these people could be like, yo, I had to go see it for work. Yeah. And beyond that, once you give like your little critique of it when it opens, then that should be like to like,
Also, journalism in and of itself is for shock value. You have to get people to read what you.
Oh,
want to
yeah,
say.
they
You
want
gotta,
yeah,
you gotta
they
say something that's you gotta have something to
clickbait,
say.
man.
If you go in, you're like, I didn't like it, but that's okay. Everyone's like, who the fuck is this guy?
No one
like,
wants to read that
It'll
vanilla.
Yeah, it's so passive.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I get that. It's all part of the business.
Our last one for you, Owen. I had a hard time pick. I was gonna pick one, but we've already talked about with you about the method acting thing.
Oh yeah.
So we talk about Brie Larson a lot on here. And the one thing I want to bring up is when the Marvels trailer came out, which is the sequel to Captain Marvel, it got the most like dislikes on YouTube for a Marvel release. Now YouTube does hide dislikes, but there's like a third party program where you can look them up still.
Let's hire that third party to figure out how many people are watching things on streaming.
Exactly right. We talk about the Brie Larson effect a bit on here because she's not well liked by a lot of people. I mean, I think the Marvels trailer has other things. It's not just her. I think it's the fact that it's 3 female leads and you have 2 people of color plus her. There's a lot of like stuff that goes into, and like a lot of comic book fans, Marvel fans, the bad ones could be pretty hateful online when they don't like something. But what do you think what are your feelings about her? Because I personally like her. There are a lot of people that think that she talks too much. I think it's cool that she speaks her mind and she's like, I don't care what you have to say, I'm gonna say it. I'm sure she knows that she gets like a ton of hate. Before Fast 10 came out, we were speculating why they weren't showing her in the trailer that much. Or like, are they not trolling her that much because they're aware of the Brie Larson effect? Yeah. But yeah, what are your thoughts on like her and how that kind of affects her, I guess, more mainstream movies now too? Because she's been getting this since she took on Captain Marvel, like right after she won her Oscar.
Well, I mean, I've been in love with Brie Larson since 21 Jump Street, so
I'll give you that
movie. I was like, yeah, like Brie Larson. But yeah, it's very interesting to me because I kind of go back and forth between the way I think about actors using their platform to kind of give their own agenda. So it's like part of me wants to say, yeah, you're an actor. Like, what do you know about anything to give me your opinion? Like, why should I listen to what you have to say? Tom Hanks, for some reason, bothers me in that sense. Sometimes he says some things, and I'm like, I don't need to hear that.
Nicest guy in Hollywood.
Yeah, I know. But there is something about like when you have this platform, like I'll say again, where millions of people are listening, why wouldn't you stick up for what you believe in? And like, why wouldn't you have a stance and be able to say, hey, this is who I am on and off camera? So like, I know maybe some studios might not hire her because of that, but she's been getting work for a while. So I don't think studios really care. She's a popular face. She's beautiful. She is very smart. She has a lot of things going for her. So like, I don't know. I think that she gets a lot of hate just because she said something that's controversial that a lot of people like a controversial opinion. So there's obviously going to be a lot of hate. But I mean, for some reason, I can't rack my brains to see what she said besides that there's a lot of old white men in Hollywood, which is a fact. So it's
she said that, and she said that specifically about people who write about movies. She was talking about journalism and entertainment journalism, and she was like, "Why are we being critiqued by only old white men? I mean, that doesn't really represent the audience that is seeing these movies." And she's not wrong. I mean, she's not wrong at all. But yeah.
So that's tough. It's really tough because it's like, in some sense, yes, you could have kept that to yourself, but also she's just stating a fact. And a lot of people were like, no, that's not right. But also now you're shaming us for who we are. And like, I mean, old white men get offended by a lot very quickly. So it's like, I mean, at the end of the day, she's sticking up for what she believes in. And I mean, I literally just watched Trainwreck, which I don't know why I picked it.
She's in that? She's in that?
She's in it. Yeah, she's Amy Schumer's sister. She does great. She's fantastic in it. And yeah, I think she did a really good job. And like, yeah, every time I see her, I kind of get like, yeah, I'm excited for her performance. She did great in Room. Is that what it's called?
Room. Yeah, she's really good in that.
Really good in that. Yeah, so she's very distinguished in all the different work that she's done. She's done a lot of different things. So also, I mean, if you're gonna hate on her for being Ms. Marvel, like, then you can hate on anyone for jumping on the Marvel train. Like, I don't know. It's just, it was the first female-led one, and I think people didn't like that. And that's shows how much we still have to progress.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I really don't understand it. I mean, I think Jackson has a different, but it's not about her.
I'm the
personally.
black sheep of the three on this one for sure. But
It's
don't get me
not
wrong.
her personally. Like, it's more of like he doesn't like her as a person. It's just an acting thing more than
yeah, it's an acting thing. I mean, yeah, I mean,
no,
I gotta be a little bit more
personality.
prepared before I go into like a Brie Larson like dive. But I mean, I look at like how her Marvel co-stars even like work with her and talk about her and are how they are when they're around her. If you see in interviews, I'm like, there's something that I don't get the sense that she's well liked even among some of her co-stars. But that obviously I don't know her, but yeah, whatever.
If you're constantly on your soapbox, constantly saying stuff like this, then yeah, it gets frustrating. Like if
I agree,
you can kind of keep things like to your close to your chest, and when it's the right time, say it. But if you're constantly preaching and lecturing, then I don't have to.
Who wants to be around that?
Who wants to be around anyone like that, regardless?
She's
of what
bound to, yeah. But good for her for not caring. I mean, everyone could probably do well with caring a little bit less about what people think. So I can commend that from her.
Yeah,
I don't hate the woman.
He's like, I'm the black sheep though of the three.
Doesn't mean I hate her. I'm just like, I'm not as like all up, uppity about her, but whatever.
Yeah, it's fine. All right, that's Owen's opinions for some.
I love that.
That's a fun little take. That's a fun little segment.
I think whenever
the show's evolving.
I know. Whenever you pop on again after a long absence, we should just like do that again. But in keeping with news, just really quick, and we don't have to stay on this too long, only because our first episode dealt with Vin Diesel and The Rock when they had a feud, and he said he was never coming back to the Fast and the Furious franchise ever.
That liar.
The news broke that he is coming back to the Fast and the Furious franchise, and if you saw Fast 10, he is as a little cameo during the credits. He also put on his Twitter that his beef with Vin Diesel is over, but I don't think it quite is based on how this is kind of coming together. But basically what he's doing, he's not coming back for a Hobbs and Shaw 2, and it's not Fast 11. It's basically its own kind of movie that's supposed to be a bridge between Fast 10 and Fast 11. And it seems like he's leading it. And there might be other appearances from other Fast people, but that's about it. And yes, Vin Diesel is
that's hilarious.
Yeah,
Vin's letting Wayne lead a Fast movie.
Yeah, so this is
cannot believe what I just heard.
This is why I don't think the beef is completely squashed, because yes, Vin Diesel is an executive producer, so is Dwayne Johnson, but they're not sharing screen time in this at all. And my thing was, I think he only agreed to come back. He wasn't going to come back as like a co-star in an ensemble to like be like he was in like Fast 5 and the other ones he was in. So I think that's the only reason he agreed to do it, because like he's still gonna lead this, and he has a lot of ego, as we saw from like how he handled all the Black Adam stuff. He claims that he squashed his beef with Vin Diesel last summer, but other people have said that he filmed the little cameo stinger for Fast 10 after all the Black Adam debacle. So that was filmed really late. It wasn't filmed like around like the time they were actually shooting, in principal photography for Fast 10. So it kind of feels like he was like, hey, one franchise fell apart and I could still be a part of this one, but here are my terms for coming back.
There's a clause in his contract that says, if I speak to Vin, you owe me $50,000.
Yeah, and then he'll say,
I'm not allowed to be in the same room.
Yeah, I'll make it seem like it's all kumbaya and put on Twitter in this little video and say like, oh, we squashed our beef last summer. I care only about the fans. He basically said, I've always said that like I care about the audience first, which is why he's back.
Yeah, keeping up his good guy persona.
Yeah, I can already tell from your reactions how you guys feel about this. But if you want to add,
I think you're completely on to it. I think you are calling it how it is. I completely agree with how you interpret that scenario. I also think Dwayne has number one in mind first of all. I also think the cracks in his good guy persona, more so in the last year or two, are starting to show, which is like not a good thing. I'm not happy about that, but it's like I don't feel like as like good about Dwayne Johnson as I would have like 5 years ago.
I feel the same. Yeah, I feel like I liked him a lot more like in Jumanji and like all these other things. Like his persona just felt more realistic, and now for some reason I feel like it's forced.
I think we're just seeing a lot more of like just who he really is, his true colors.
Yeah, that's kind of and so like, I mean, he's been a Hollywood A-lister for a decade now at least. Like, I think that he
fought hard to get there.
He needs.
No, he really did. Yeah,
he did.
Yeah, he's worked really hard to get there. But I think that once you've had a taste of that, you don't want to let that go. So it's hard to receive so much praise and then also go from that high to like that low of like that movie sucked, and he's like, no, it didn't. I worked really hard on it. And so I think that he probably took that as a big hit too, like you said, his ego. So
Yeah, I think the whole Black Adam thing knocked him down a few pegs, and I
Whether
don't
he'd
think
like to admit it or not.
Yeah, and he's someone I think that kind of he is likable and he knows he is, and that he has that reputation. And I think what was getting out to the media when the Black Adam stuff was going on made him look like he wasn't as likable as he wants to appear to be. Really seemed like he was trying to control a lot of things that he really had no control over. I mean, when you were going out and saying like the DC hierarchy is about to change, or whatever you keep saying, doing all that. I mean, that's just his ego. But I mean, I guess for Fast and Furious fans, and I count myself among them, I read this, I was like, oh, I knew he was gonna be in another one because they teased it, but I did not know it was gonna be like a Fast 10.5 or something.
I think that concept is silly to begin with. You can't have a 0.5 movie. That to me, that just doesn't make any sense.
Beating a dead horse. They're like, we have to explain what happens between like this movie and 11, or you can just explain all of it in 11,
right?
Like, you just do that. But I don't think that could work out, because I really don't think they might have patched things up from a financial, we can produce this together standpoint, but I don't know if they want to be on set filming scenes together still anytime soon. They can lie to us all they want, but I feel like he was kind of like, and Vin Diesel kind of echoed the same things. He was like, oh, like, yeah, it's all about the audience, and like, he's like my brother and blah, blah, blah. I mean,
family.
Basically.
Yeah.
When I posted that story, Jackson was just like, I could just feel the way you commented on it, just like,
what did I say? I remember reading it for the first time. I can't remember. I did comment something, but it's like, I think I said this franchise gets more convoluted by the minute. And like, they're just proving me right.
Yeah. I wanted to just do that one because it's like a full circle thing, because we talked about them on our first episode when they were first beefing, and
that's crazy
now,
to think about.
Now they're friends again and making another movie together.
It only took 100 episodes of Back to the Blockbuster to repair that shit.
We've been covering it since day one.
All right, so since we all are all about letting the audience get to know us, this is something that we want to do. The first thing I kind of pitched at Jackson doing 5 films to get to know us.
I love this idea, by the way.
It's not necessarily like, it doesn't have to be like your favorite movie. It's more like, like if you were like to share it with a friend or someone, they're like, oh, like, this is my personality, this is my vibe. If you really want to know the kind of stuff I like, these will be the movies I will show you. This was actually kind of, part of it was hard. Some of them were easy.
Oh my God. Some of them are easy, but this was the most part. 5. It's a little side note here. Like, I'm sure you guys must, once people know to the degree of which you like movies, like more than the average person will say, you guys must get the question all the time, especially from people you don't know that well or people you meet. What's your favorite movie? And like, that question is, I always tell people, I'm like, I don't have one. That's just too hard to answer. It's like picking your favorite child if you had a lot of kids, right?
It's very loaded.
5, I'll just say, is like not that much easier, just to get a preface with that. So this list was hard to define, but anyway, back to you.
All right. No, I was gonna let you kick. I was gonna let you kick it off.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
How do you guys want to break it down first? We want to like all list off. We'll go five at a time, and then just do a little blurb about each one.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Cool. And who wants to kick it off?
We'll give it to you. I'll give it to you, Jackson.
Right, cool. Awesome. First of all, I'm gonna say, yeah, I do remember when you pitched this idea. I thought that was fantastic and a great thing for the audience to really get to know us, because that your taste in movies and what you like can say a lot about you, especially as a moviegoer. I'll try and keep them quick just so we can all get a chance to talk about all of our movies. But the first one it was the first one that came to mind when I put it on here, and it's one I don't have to spend a whole lot of time talking about because it's one that I've mentioned repeatedly on the podcast when it comes up. But those of you that have listened for a little bit since I've been on, you guys got to know Interstellar is probably the movie I would credit the most with like me fall in love with cinema and made me realize what can really be achieved on the screen and how it goes beyond just watching a movie when it starts and not thinking about it when it's over. Like that really, I feel like it was a birth for me when I watched it. I still remember the scene of Cooper going through the wormhole for the first time and like ending up behind the bookcase. For those who haven't seen the movie are probably like, what the fuck is he talking about? Yeah. Watching that. Yes, absolutely watch it. Yeah, I feel bad because I kind of like want to gatekeep this movie because it has such like a film bro following over the years, especially it's Nolan, who's a very accessible filmmaker as much as he is a genius.
Yeah.
I kind of like, I've loved this movie since I saw it in theaters. It's always one I'll go back to. Probably one of the movies I've seen the most amount of time, but yeah, just that one that's like just very seminal to me and inspired my love of cinema as much as it did. I'd always liked movies until I'd seen this, but I'd say that is where the threshold for love of movies really came. So that out of the way. This one, I don't know if I've really had the chance to talk about. 12 Years a Slave, 2013 Best Picture winner. One of my all-time favorite movies. I don't even really know. Like, I know that everything in this movie, like, very much something that I like. I don't know what it is about this movie that I love so much. I cry every time I watch it. I think Hans Zimmer's score is like some of the best, like, musical work done in a movie ever. It complements the film so much. Every performance in this movie is fantastic. Nothing really like. Also, like, as much as it's hype, it was a Best Picture winner. I feel like it's really tapered off the last few years. You don't hear people mention this movie a whole lot.
Yeah,
fantastic though.
Not a quick, easy watch. I think
it's not.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah, this is one I feel like I could, yeah,
it's good though.
Like one of those ones you could watch with a lot of people. People that love film could love this movie, but even like the casual moviegoer, this is one I would watch with my mom, and I know she wouldn't really like the violence and the horrible things that happen in this movie, but something that anybody could like find something to like about this movie. Moving on to number 3 is a movie that's like I hold very dear to my heart, and it's might seem like an obscure pick. I don't know that this has ever come up. A movie called The Grey came out, I think, in 2011.
Yep,
Liam Neeson. It's like the Liam Neeson movie where he fights wolves, right?
Yep.
That's how they marketed it.
Exactly how they marketed it.
I was like, it's taken with wolves.
Yeah, right. So much more of that though. To me, it's one that I saw. I remember seeing it in theaters. My dad, and like, so I have a lot of special memories like of watching movies with my dad. I'd say, even though not directly, he very much directly inspired like my love of cinema, because I grew up like that was how I like to spend a lot of my time with my dad. He worked a lot and like kind of like in another city, so like on his off time we would like sit on the couch, watch movies, or go to the theater. It was rare that we'd go to the theater, so when we went to go see something, it was like special, and we saw this movie together. Nice. Of many, it also has a lot of themes of fatherhood throughout it, and being the child of a father and being a father to somebody else. It's a movie I could like, probably one of the ones I'd say I'd seen the most. And like I've recommended, probably the movie I've shown probably the most different people this movie. I love it to death. Like I'll probably see it many more times in my lifetime. And it's very underrated too. If you haven't seen it, if you've written it off as like that movie, that Liam Neeson stupid action movie where he fights wolves, so much more entertaining than that. It's fantastic.
Yeah, turn the brightness up on your TV and
that too. Yes, a lot of great sequences of the movie though. But yeah, I can't say enough good things about The Grey. Number 4 got to be, I had to throw this on here. This is another one that quickly came to mind. And this is kind of like, a lot of these movies are like my favorite movies, even though I know Gaius, the idea isn't necessarily to have the list be that. A lot of them I just can't help. Like I thoroughly enjoy these movies, and that's why they're here. But John Carpenter's The Thing, I'd say that's a top contender for one of my all-time favorites. Definitely one of those early ones that helped me like really craft my love of cinema. And I'm a huge in the 80s decade, and this is like really early 80s sci-fi, another genre I really love. Again, one of those movies you can't say anything that hasn't been said a million times. It is as good as everybody says it is. I think it ages perfectly. Probably watch it at least once a year and never get tired of it. I think I find something new to enjoy about that movie every time I watch it. And then moving on to my 5th and final movie to get to know me. There was a lot of other contenders that fought for this spot. I really wanted to go with Alien because it's hard not to have.
You talked about that. You taled about that. Yeah.
And it's not on here, although it very well could be. But people got to know I love that series so much. But I wanted to put a little bit something different on there, and I wanted to have another older pick on there. So I'm going with Richard Linklater's Dazed and Confused because I love that movie so much. It is fantastic. It is hilarious. I'm actually having a conversation about Richard Linklater with my buddy Cam the other day, who's like my movie guy, about how he can just like capture just like raw human experiences just so accurately. Like when you are watching his characters in a movie talk or even just do something mundane, you can't help but think that is exactly how people operate and talk and just work together. And I think he captures that better than maybe any other director. And Dazed and Confused is another one that I can watch a million times and find something to appreciate about it every time. So that's it. That's number 5. I love that movie to death.
Nice. That's a good list.
Thank you. Mix. I love that. Like I could literally name 50 movies to get to know me, but I'm glad that narrowed it down, and that was really fun. Yes.
All right.
So thanks for listening to that ramble.
Yeah, Jackson, that was awesome. That was really cool. I mean, like I said, I got to know you a little bit better through that. That was really cool.
Awesome exercise. I can't wait to hear what you guys.
And justice for the gray too. Good for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's cool because I mean it's such a very loose question that I took it kind of similar, but I also kind of went a different route as well.
Cool.
So my first one is Rival. I mean, I've talked about it times on this
awesome
podcast. It currently is my favorite movie. The only movie that I've watched literally back to back. As soon as I finished it, I had time.
Start over again.
I watched it again.
Awesome.
And so like I love it because it was one of the first times that I'd seen a movie that was sci-fi where it was such a different explanation of what could happen when aliens came. And it was so cerebral and it was so visceral and like it was all in the dialogue, and language is important and timing is important and communication between countries and bringing people together. And like it's just such a great thing. I love the movie. It's funny because Jeremy Renner is hit or miss for me sometimes. He kills it in this movie, and I love to see a performance from an actor that I hadn't seen before that makes me love them. Amy Adams, fantastic. That's definitely my first one. It's consistently it took over as my favorite pick from Catch Me If You Can. Okay. That took the top spot once I saw it, which is actually not on my list because I went a different route a little bit. But Inception, I got a Nolan movie on mine too. Inception is on there. This is one of the ones that I would pick this one to get to know me because like I love seeing things that I couldn't dream of imagining. So it's like, there were so many things. I was like, how did you come up with this? How did you showed it to me in a way that I'd never seen?
That's the Nolan genius.
Leonardo DiCaprio has been one of my favorite actors for years and years and years. And just, I mean, talk about Hans Zimmer again. I mean, just like the score. Yeah. I listened to that soundtrack in high school for days and days and days. Like I love there are so many good songs, and it just is such a cool thing. Like being able to show something on the screen that I never thought of I could imagine is just so cool to see. Then I went for my third pick. I went with John Wick. Seeing an action movie like that, like I wanted to pick something like the way I like to see action. I want to see it all. Show me the shotgun blast to the head. I want to see it. I want it, and I want to see.
It sounded like me over there.
Yeah, a little bit.
And I want to see a lot of it. That's what I want to see.
John Wick is a perfect action movie, dude.
Like it's just such a great action movie that I consistently love, and it's just such a great storytelling, and it's done without a lot of dialogue. And I love dialogue, but being able to show a story with like, I mean, the script is probably 20 pages. So I absolutely love that. It's such a great story, just fantastic action movie.
Endlessly quotable too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Then these last two, I took it in a different way of what I also love about movies. So for the fourth one, I picked the Muppet Christmas Carol. So this is a movie.
Funny story about that's hilarious.
Okay, I did not expect that.
This is a movie that I watch with my family every single Christmas on Christmas Eve. Okay. And is one of the things that I absolutely love about movies. Even though there are sometimes like some Christmas Eves where I'm like, you know what? I don't really want to watch this right now. The second it starts, I love every second of it. Seeing Michael Caine sing songs with Muppets is amazing.
No way.
And yeah, it's just a movie that I know all the words. I know all the songs. I love the storytelling of a Charles Dickens classic story in a very different way. Super quotable, and it just makes me literally like they have a song, Only One More Sleep Till Christmas, and that's why we're watching it. I literally go to bed knowing that it's going to be Christmas. It doesn't feel like it without watching that movie, and it's always with my family. So getting to share that with my family is one of the things that I love about movies, is sharing it with people.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And then my last one, also a little unexpected, but Disney consistently makes absolutely hits. Moana is one of my favorite movies.
I've not seen Moana.
It is one of the best told stories, and it makes me cry every single time. And being able to cry at a movie is an amazing feeling because it's
cathartic, dude.
It's very cathartic.
Feel some sort of way, and especially through music too, and songs, and like, gosh, it's just so good. Animation for that is like just seeing the way animation has progressed into showing something that's still, it's not like in the, what's it called, the valley of it's like when it looks too realistic, but it doesn't look
Uncanny Valley.
The Uncanny Valley, yeah. Right. And so it's just like farcical enough where I know it's fake, but it's so great, and the characters are so real, and the story's so great. So I love movies like that, and being able to sing along with a movie with people and friends and knowing all the words, amazing.
Yeah,
That is awesome.
good.
Let me just
taking
ask you quickly, what do you think about the live action remake that they just announced of that?
Of Moana.
I want your take of that. Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Didn't know? Well, yeah, they're doing a live action treatment.
So unnecessary.
You can't do it the same way.
When did it come out? 2015, 2016?
Yeah, not long
Yeah.
enough.
Like,
long enough.
man.
Yeah,
Give it
but it's
10
also
years at least.
super popular. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough.
so that's 5 movies to get to know me a little bit better.
That's an awesome list too, my man.
That is a great list. What's funny about a Muppet Christmas Carol? I saw that for the first time. When I went to go visit Lance in New York. So it was like a week before my birthday. So it's December time. And he was like, "Have you ever seen this?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "I've never seen it." He was like, "You never grew up with this?" And I didn't want to watch it. I was like, "I'm not gonna be into this at all." And then like midway through, I was just like like enchanted by like, the whole thing.
I'm getting like Paddington vibes.
A little bit, yeah.
It's Muppets, dude. It's not Paddington.
No, but like in the sense it's like an obscure animated sort of movie, or it has not animated, but in the same like there's characters that are like puppets or whatever, but like it's so universally loved. Like Paddington 2 apparently is just like absolutely off the wall, highly rated. I just never like expected that, but I gotta watch this movie this Christmas. Clearly,
I'm telling you, wait till December though. You can't watch.
Yeah, no. I gotta get in the spirit. That might be
it's so good. It's really good. That's so funny.
I'm a Scrooge, dude.
Like, and I was like, it didn't realize how popular it was until after I mentioned it. Someone was like, "Yeah, I just watched this for the first time," and they were like,
"When did this come out?"
Years ago. God,
early 90s, like
early
90s.
90s.
Yeah. It's pretty old, but it's very Christmassy though. You do feel the Christmas time when you're.
I mean, I also grew up watching the Muppet Show, and so like I know all the Muppets very well.
Right.
So it's like it's very like nostalgic for me.
Yeah. All right, that was a good list. I'm glad that you did something a little different with it. That's awesome.
All right, Gaius, I can't wait to hear what you got for us. I have a feeling I know I'm gonna just raise my fist when you mention the one that I know is gonna be on here. Okay.
25th hour.
That's what it. Yeah, I'm interested to see.
I just say it now.
Yep.
No, you just go however you want to do it.
No. Spoiler alert: 25th hour is on my list.
Would be.
Hey, a lot of people call it my like. Hey, Gaius wants to be friends with you, so he's gonna show you this movie.
Yeah.
And that is
you got your real
that's
man.
That's how I got Owen. For people I've shown it to for that like who've never even heard of it, they're surprised that they never heard of it because the cast is pretty stacked and it's not all of Spike Lee's movies like kind of hit mainstream, but they thought this one might have because you have Edward Norton, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and Anna Paquin, Brian Cox in the movie. There's like so many good people in it. Rosario Dawson. I've just always loved it. I remember the first time I saw it in theaters and loved everything about it. The acting, the music, the score is amazing. Terrence Blanchard's score is really good. It's a really simple story, but I think it's pretty well told. And I always feel like it's the first time I'm watching it every time I watch it. Like
that is an awesome feeling.
Like that feeling of like JC did the 20th anniversary episode with me for that movie.
Right.
And we were talking about just key scenes in that movie. And like, there's like an ending of it with like Brian Cox's narration over like, the character gets an opportunity to choose like, I can either take you to prison or we could do this instead. And the narration over that always like completely gets me because Brian Cox just, he's a fantastic actor and it's just really well written. And yeah, I just love that. It's just like, it's really simple, contained story. I also love, even though I'm not from New York, I love that like, it's because it's not in the book that Spike Lee chose because it was the first movie to shoot in New York after 9/11. And he chose to make that a part of the movie, not like a distracting part of the movie, but he was like, I'm not going to shoot in New York and have them be in a New York where this didn't happen.
Yeah.
It becomes like a character kind of in and of itself a bit.
It still moves on, even though it was an event that was horrible and tragic. You still have to acknowledge it.
Yeah, and like it kind of goes along with the main character, like how is he going to rebuild after possibly spending 7 years in prison? Like what's going to happen to him after that? But yeah, I mean, it was definitely, I knew someone was going to spoil it for me because when I said we were going to do this, so many people already messaged me. They're like, I already know that's going to be on your list. I'm like,
yeah, but as it should be, it's one of your favorites. It's a very like groundbreaking movie for you.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
I see it still.
Yeah, you should check it out. I think you would really like
absolutely will. Yeah, might save it for honestly for like when for an in-person watch.
Yeah,
see,
you're gonna love it, man.
It's really good. Then because everyone knows I like scary movies. Horror movies are my thing. I have to go with John Carpenter's Halloween,
I knew you were gonna say it
1978.
too.
Mention The Thing. The Thing is my second favorite John Carpenter movie. But I grew up with Halloween. I've talked about it before. Like I just love the story behind them making it. Just like a group of people that wanted to make a movie together with like no money.
Right.
Like the actors were providing their own costumes. They're helping picking up leaves off the floor to like make it appear to look like, like we have to make it look like fall, like when they're not even shooting in the fall. They're all kind of just doing all these things because they want to get this movie made, and then it turns into this like phenomenon, that for better or worse spawned a ton of sequels and alternate timelines and all that stuff. But the first one, the original, still holds up for me. And honestly, I'm 38 years old. I watch it alone in the dark. There's still scenes in that movie that still actually to me and scare me, and that's just a testament of how well I think he made that movie. And I can actually name that because I was thinking about what scary movie would represent that for me, and I think that one that starts my love of that genre in general.
That's awesome to be able to pinpoint it.
Yeah,
to that movie, which is a legendary movie.
I do feel bad that I don't have a Nolan film on my list after hearing you two.
Hey, we know you obviously love the guy. How couldn't you?
Yeah,
not every list has to have Nolan on it.
I do have David Fincher, The Social Network as well. That was actually our first deep dive one here.
Great.
Aaron Sorkin's just a great writer. So it's interesting. Whenever I feel like I have writer's block, I will watch The Social Network, not to take anything from it, but to be like inspired by it, because I just think the writing and stuff is really good. Like, how do you make a movie about the creation of Facebook that interesting? It doesn't seem like something that would be that interesting on paper, but it really is. Like, that movie flows too. It doesn't feel too long. Like, acting's really good. Yeah, if I need to feel inspired, I usually watch that. It was a tough one between that thinking about inspire me, and then Closer was almost on there because it's really well written too. But I had to give the slight edge to The Social Network.
Match Made in Heaven too with Fincher and Sorkin. Like, that is just too good to be true. Great choice, great pick. Movie's awesome.
And the other one is Perks of Being a Wallflower. It just
I have not seen that.
If you asked me, Gaius, to have like made this list for you, I feel like I could have done a pretty good job.
Yeah, you would have gotten most of them, I think. I love a good coming of age story, and I know I could have picked a bunch of different ones. I just think this one's really well done, and there's like certain things in the movie I identify with. Not all of it, but when I was a freshman, like a lot of my good friends were like seniors in high school, and I was always worried about like, oh, like what's gonna happen with me, like, when they graduate, like I still have this much time left at this school. So I kind of relate with that a bit, and it's also funny in the right spots too. It's highly emotional in all the right spots as well.
Yeah.
I think everyone is universally excellent in it. I know we say a lot about Ezra Miller now, but Ezra Miller is really good in it.
So good.
Logan Lerman's really good. This was Emma Watson's first like post like Harry Potter movie too, and she's really good in it.
And you don't think Hermione Granger, which is amazing
at all.
Insane that she was able to do that.
Yeah. And I think it helps that the guy who wrote the book also wrote and directed the movie, and you kind of can feel that. You can feel that in that this is like exactly how he wanted the movie to be. And lastly, I talked about it with Jackson before, but The Lost Boys. I love. I mean, just a fun '80s vampire movie. I know it's like
awesome.
It's one of those, like, you talk about movies that you can watch over and over and over again. I can watch because it's only like 90 minutes and it's a breeze to watch. I used to watch it when I was a kid, much like Owen does with Arrival. I used to watch it and then immediately rewind it and then watch it again because it's just that much fun. And
it is a blast.
It really is like just a fun horror movie to
great soundtrack to that movie as well.
Soundtrack's amazing.
That movie is awesome.
It's weird because it's very 80s in a lot of ways, but it doesn't feel like too dated in other ways too, though. It holds up really well.
Let me ask you this: how are the sequels? I haven't seen any of the sequels.
They're trash, man.
Actually, okay.
They're so bad. They're really bad.
Okay, so I've seen the first, but
I'm so glad that some of that stuff didn't come together. I mean, the sequels they made, CW tried to make a Lost Boys TV show, which this would have been the Vampire Diaries, I guess. But yeah, those are our 5 movies.
I love that list too.
I think we all did a really good job on that one, and
we all took it in different ways. I love it.
Yeah, fantastic exercise.
Yeah, and I think Owen's right. I think he could have written at least 3 or 4 of mine down and had them right.
I could have picked probably 2 of those for you.
Yeah,
Halloween, sure. I would have guessed would be on there, but
so that was fun.
Awesome.
Nice.
Hopefully, the audience gets to know us a little better.
Yeah, hopefully. let us know what you think of some of our picks too. I know they're all personal to us, so you can't really like totally attack us on them, but like,
you
just let
can.
us know. You can. I guess you could. I guess you could. All right, so a little bring back a little segment that we did the first time we did it was episode 5, December 9th, 2021. Back to the Blockbuster Approved. What's funny is that I thought someone else was the first person we did it with. We did Sandra Bullock the first time, which was like easy because I feel like we were like, yeah, everyone loves her. They got more complicated with Kevin Hart and then Jared Leto. So I thought we would do Mark Wahlberg, and the only reason I brought this up because so many people in the week I was thinking about doing this brought him up. You brought up watching Ted again and being like, it's not as funny as I remembered it being. I had someone else tell me that they don't really think Mark Wahlberg's a really good actor, and that sometimes he just kind of plays a variation of himself. I have certain opinions about some of the stuff that he's done, but just an overall. Go to you first, Jackson. When you hear name Marky Mark, what comes to your mind like right away? Like when you think of him as an actor, when you think of him,
so like actually Mark Wahlberg or Marky Mark?
No, Mark Wahlberg.
Okay. Comes to mind first. Well, nowadays, like unbiasedly thinking, like the first things that pop into my head are the Transformers series, and I don't know why, because it's not something that I ever associated. That's kind of like I feel like those movies are like a pivot in his career, like. Which kind of leans towards like I'll get to maybe to my rating near the end, but it's kind of leads me towards where I think about him nowadays. Like I associate him with like trying to like action extravaganzas and like obscure comedies. But I like a lot of his earlier work. I'd say a lot more when I think about Mark. But yeah, I think like those movies in particular were like just like kind of a pivot in his later career. Like that's what I think about him now. There was something else that I'm going to wait maybe for later in the conversation that I got to bring up too that I always think about when I think about Mark. But it has been in a lot of like, I remember like just in preparation for the conversation about him, like looking back at some of the movies that he'd been in and thinking, yeah, this guy has got an eclectic career. He's been in a lot of different stuff. He's tried his hands at a lot of things, some better or worse. Yep. Now, like, I don't know what it is. Like, that's where my mind goes when I think about him now is like Transformers and afterwards, which I don't really know why. It's just that's just the first things that pop into my head. But
he's the king of the paycheck movie. I think. Yeah. Where I think he does it sometimes because he might want to fund a smaller project that he wants to work on, which I can commend him for. Like, you have to do like the really crappy, potentially crappy studio movie in order to like do that really fun passion project that you want to do. But he does so many paycheck movies that I think his good stuff gets lost in the shuffle. So that's my initial thought of him right now.
You've just summed up why I think about those movies when I think about Mark Wahlberg. I just didn't know how to put into words.
Before I go into more detail, that is how I think of him now. Is like he does a lot of paycheck movies where it's like you forget, like, oh, is he talented? Like, what does he do that's good? And that's my initial thought now.
Daddy's home.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts on Mark Wahlberg because like I think he's done such a great job being able to retain his typecast while also being able to get out of it at the same time. Like, I think there are certain people like Ryan Reynolds he has his shtick. He's just kind of been left to that, even after doing something like Safe House or anything like that. Like that, I think those kind of get lost in the shuffle because the only thing people want to see Ryan Reynolds in is him just being himself. Right. Whereas like people enjoy Mark Wahlberg for that. Like I loved him in Date Night, just his cameo there because it's just like him kind of playing himself, but not
That's pretty funny.
Much of a douchebag as like Pain and Gain. Yeah. But then I'll watch something like Two Guns and I'm like, God, I can't stand Mark Wahlberg in this. And so it's like, it's super weird because there are certain movies where whatever the writing was, they're like, Mark, just like be Boston, be fucking this, be like all of this. And that kind of bothers me. But then he'll be in something like, what's the, hold on, one on the oil rig.
Deepwater Horizon.
Deepwater Horizon. God, that movie is so good.
His Peter Berg movies are awesome. I gotta get
like, he has this ability to make me believe his character, especially when it's in something that's like a serious movie. Like I liked him in Shooter. I liked him in
Shooter's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of those movies.
That came to mind.
I don't know. He kind of gets this like he does. He does the paycheck movie where they're like, Mark, just be yourself, and you're gonna sell a shit ton of tickets. And those ones, they kind of like it kind of bothers me when he leans back into like his I don't know, he uses his charisma too much for that. So I don't know, it's very weird because even something like Uncharted, I'm like, he wasn't really being too much of it, but I didn't like him in that. I don't
know why he was cast in that, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, it wasn't good. So like, yeah, it's very interesting. He's had such a dynamic career. But then I'll watch like Boogie Nights and I'm like, fuck, how
there you go. Thank you for mentioning that.
How the hell
Fucking awesome Boogie Nights.
like how the hell is this guy not more popular for this? Like how did
The fighter?
Yeah. I don't know. It's like
damn, now I'm like changing my mind on it.
I think
The Departed. Very good at that, Jackson.
That's what happens when we do this, is we'll start bringing up like, oh yeah, fuck, that movie is good. So the problem, so this was interesting going through his filmography, because I'm glad you brought up Boogie Nights, because that was his like breakout. He did a movie called Fear a year or two before that a lot of people do like, and it's a fun.
My mom talks about that.
It's a fun trashy thriller. He is really good in it. He plays the crazy obsessed boyfriend really well in it. But Boogie Nights was his breakout, and I was like, all right, like he's really good in this. And then I'll look at stuff like
I'm imagining him reading the script and he's like, I got to play a porn star with a big dick. All right,
cool. Yeah.
Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds. Yeah. So then he does Boogie Nights, and then he'll do stuff like Three Kings, which I also really liked.
I recently, actually.
I like The Perfect Storm. I mean, it's not really for him. It's like, it's just a pretty decent movie.
Right.
But then he'll fuck it up and do like that Planet of the Apes remake that he did with Tim Burton, and then that wasn't good. He's just like wrong for the, like, he's clearly wrong for the part.
How was that movie made?
And there'll be stuff like The Italian Job, which we mentioned when we were talking about the movie. It seemed like it was tailor-made for him. Like, that's his personality. But it seems like a really easy thing to fall back on.
He didn't really have to try in that movie. He was just being Mark. Yeah.
But then you look at stuff like The Fighter, you mentioned that too, but I think he gets overshadowed by Christian Bale and Amy Adams. So that's like the
fantastic role for him.
Yeah.
So good.
And then when I try to defend him, I will bring up The Departed. I'm like, yeah, he got nominated for an Oscar for that. And what I get thrown in my face though is like, it's not that hard for him to play someone like that. He is from Boston. I'm sure like that is basically like deeply rooted in him already.
It might not have to be hard, but it is still awesome. He's great in that movie.
I know.
He has some of the best lines in the movie.
Yes, he does. Can't repeat here, but I really want to. Oh my god.
He steals his scenes that he
does.
And I don't necessarily agree with the whole like, oh well, I mean, he's from Boston. I mean, that's like taking whatever talent away from Ben Affleck in The Town. But like, yo, he is from there, but like he's still good in the movie. That doesn't
absolutely.
Do that. But then he does shit like The Happening, which is awful. Like he's like so bad. And then a series of like Transformers movies that he's not in the good ones. I mean,
when Shia LaBeouf is a better lead.
Yeah. Well,
but then,
I mean,
like
Shia's a
22. At 22.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
When he was a little more, yeah.
But then he falls back like he is funny, like he's naturally funny. So I watch something like The Other Guys. I'm like, oh, he's funny in that.
Oh, he's
like,
so
that was good.
I know.
That is his best comedy, if you ask me.
I know we talked about Ted. I haven't watched Ted in so long, but what I've remembered about it was that he was funny. What I remembered, but you said it doesn't really.
It did.
Hold
I mean,
well.
I think for me, the stuff that didn't age as well was the Seth MacFarlane stuff. Like maybe it's just because I've like heard it so many times, but I was like, yeah, that joke just didn't seem as funny as it should have been. Yeah, the Ted was one that I watched and I was like, yeah, I didn't laugh once.
Yeah,
I think it's best enjoyed with a group of friends than more like alone. You know what I mean? Like most Seth MacFarlane stuff is.
Very true.
So I guess in the end, before I say whether I disapprove or approve, is there's an issue with consistency. I guess.
Yeah.
That was one of the points I had jotted down for him.
Where like sometimes he seems like he's really trying, and sometimes it seems like he's sleepwalking through it, and it's just like, oh, like I can play that in my sleep. I think he's a cool guy. I got to interview him. He was cool when I talked to him.
What? Every time you bust out some different name of someone to interview, I'm like, man, what? That is so sick. I think I'm saying
that was cool.
That is cool. Pretty dope. Not gonna lie, that is awesome.
But yeah, it's more of a consistency issue, I guess. I have with him as a performer, which is why I'm going to go last and let you guys go.
Okay, I would be remiss if I didn't, because I'm not certain yet. I think I may have flipped my rating on him or my consensus. I had to just get your guys' thoughts on the whole 9/11 quote. Like, do you guys know that whole story? You guys don't know what he said about 9/11?
What do you say? Oh, is it the one where?
Listen, just maybe for the uninitiated, like maybe the viewers that don't know this, it's nothing major. It's just like some stupid thing he said back in the day about 9/11. I don't know when the quote was from. I pulled up the article though. I'm assuming this is from the early 2000s, probably afterwards, but he is quoted as saying, I don't know who interviewed him, I think the Huffington Post, but he was quoted as saying, if I was on that plane with my kids, it wouldn't have went down like it did. There would have been a lot of blood in that first class cabin. And then me saying, okay, we're going to land somewhere safely. Don't worry. This was just a big article about him back in the day. And like, he got a lot of shit for saying this ridiculous stuff. I think he's walked back on them and acknowledged how stupid that is. But like, that's another thing that I was like mentioning earlier that I think about him when I think about Mark, because like, that is just so cringe inducingly funny to me.
That's so bad.
I know, it's just like, come the fuck on, dude. Like, he is a part like where the action star in him is like kind of like bleeding into his real life. Or he thinks it is. I don't know. That I just be remiss if I didn't mention that, because like my brain always goes to that little interview when I think about him. But no,
that was
cringy.
Some of the stuff that he did too when he was Marky Mark.
Oh yeah, when he was living in Boston. Yeah, when he was living in Boston, because he tried to. I don't know if he successfully got his record expunged, but like he definitely beat up someone pretty bold.
Oh yes,
yeah,
he had cracks on the skull. Yeah, I've heard about this recently
because they were black,
and so it's like it's problematic. I mean, he's not the same anymore. He's
changed.
People have the ability to change, but the unpredictability, and me going into a theater and buying a ticket saying I don't know which Wahlberg I'm getting today is why I don't approve.
That's a good. That was good. That's a good point. And
this is not how I thought this conversation was going to go.
I'm trying to give him credit for like going from like, you know, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch to like a Calvin Klein underwear model to like what he is now. I mean, because he also is responsible for. I mean, we're talking about him as an actor, but you know, he's responsible for like getting Entourage made, Boardwalk Empire. He produced that too. Like he's done a lot in the industry. And I love his good movies.
No, that's why I'm struggling. So, you said you wanted to go last. Okay. Damn it. Okay, so I went into this conversation. I don't know why. I was just kind of expecting to be the odd one out and like give him the thumbs down. And I was like, admittedly, I'm doing more research on the spot and like if his like filmography than I did in anticipation, because I just had my mind made up. But damn me if I'm going through his filmography and I can't credit him like Owen, you mentioned Boogie Nights. That was a big one that I had on my list of things to mention. Recently saw Three Kings, really liked him in that. He's great. I mean, the Italian Job, he did all right for me. Like, but then looking at like The Departed and Shooter and other guys, The Fighter, like he's got a lot. I think his mid-career is enough for me to say like overall, looking at his filmography, I think I'm gonna flip and give him the thumbs up. Ooh. But that is not. Maybe it's like a halfway. I've never been so split.
Like, no offenses here.
It's kind of like Joaquin in Gladiator, where he like that moment he's not sure if he's gonna give the upper down. Like, I'll say that, like, post, like, I don't know, 2017, where he does the Transformers The Last Night, Daddy's Home 2, and All the Money in the World. I'll say after that, I'm like, he's kind of dropped off for me. Minus, like, Mile 22. As shitty as that movie is rated, I enjoyed it. But his, like, 90s and 2000s were pretty solid, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and just give him a thumbs up. I did not think I was going to go that way. I was going to just prove, but
so what I have to ask myself is the movies that I like him in.
Do you like them more than the ones that you don't like?
And also, is he the selling point of said movies that I like him in? So is he as good as he is in The Departed? Is he the selling point of that movie? Because
not at all.
There's Leo, there's Matt Damon, and there's like
Scorsese.
There's a lot going into that. Is he the selling point of like The Italian Job? No, probably not. Charlie Theron and then other people. Three Kings, he is good in that, but that's more of like a him. He is a selling point, at least for performance wise, in something like Boogie Nights. Like he is really good in it, and I'm trying to think of it that way. And even when I'm thinking about The Fighter, I think about Christian Bale and Amy Adams more than him. Not to say that he's not good in it.
Yeah.
Then his recent slate of films have not been that good. Like
that's what I was.
You didn't like Instant Family?
Oh, I totally forgot about that one. The one with Rose Byrne. I totally forgot about
what?
That. How could you love that movie?
I'm gonna go, and not saying this can't change, but I'm gonna go just based on his recent work. Gonna give him a disapproval.
That was exactly my thinking, like before this conversation, and I flipped. I don't know why that happened, but I can't disagree with you guys. What I am glad is that I'm still the odd one out, because I wanted to kind of just lean the other way. just not the way that I thought it was going to go.
Oh, I love doing this Back to the Blockbuster.
Yeah,
This was fun.
This was. We should bring this back more consistently. I forgot how fun it was too.
This would be a cool thing to do every 2 weeks.
Because honestly, I've like when we did the other ones, I would change my mind like while I was doing
Yeah,
it. Like,
yeah.
Sandra Bullock was the easiest one we did because I was like, oh yeah, I mean, like even something, even in like not great movies, she's still good in those not great movies. So
yeah,
that was hard. Anyone out there listening though, let us know if you approve or disapprove of Mark Wahlberg.
I'm surprised you guys hadn't heard that.
I feel bad, like we know him, or like he's gonna say something to us.
I don't. There's a slim chance, but it's not possible that he will listen to this episode someday and be like,
"What the fuck?
Hey, I got you, Mark."
Whatever. I still love Boogie Nights.
Yep.
Alrighty. Time for a few questions from peeps.
Certainly.
Right. Like I said, some of these are very pointed industry questions. Some of them are very just directed at us. We'll start with Twitter. Let me just pull it up really quick. Sorry. At Shonen Flopcast. It's another podcast, actually. They want to know all three of our thoughts on this particular topic. Do we think Jenna Ortega is overrated?
Ooh.
Wow. She's still so new for me. She's been great in everything that I've seen her in. So I can't say she's overrated. She made Wednesday what it was. Great in Scream. So like she hasn't made something that I've been like, wow, like that wasn't a performance that I expected. I think she's getting the credit that she deserves.
Yeah, well,
I mostly agree. I think that she's right now evenly rated. I think she still has a lot to offer in terms of her career. She's had a great explosive rise to stardom, and if things continue the way they go, I have no doubt soon enough we'll be saying superstardom. If she continues to do projects like Wednesday, and if she's big in Scream, I think I will say like I like what she brings to Scream. I'm not like over the top, like, oh my God, she makes these movies for me in Scream. She does a lot of screaming in Scream. Oh my God. But she's got, Scream Queen status ahead of her.
Yeah, she already has it. Yeah.
She does. And I say like, even if I did think she was overrated, I think that like she fights for that spot, like in the spotlight. She does a great job. She's picking good projects. She's brings a good charisma to the movies that she's in. I'd say she's pretty evenly rated. I gotta say, I like, even though I don't love her to death and everything, I still really enjoy her presence. So I don't think she's overrated. I think she's evenly rated.
Yeah, I don't think she's overrated either. I think she's a good actress. Like I said, when I saw Scream last year, I had no idea who she was. And I've said this before, like a total dig against Melissa Barrera, who's also in Scream, who is fine in individual scenes, but then she would be in scenes with Jenna Ortega, and I was like,
Jenna acts
that girl is acting circles around her, and like,
which
and I went from not knowing who she was to the next month she was in X, and then she was just all over the place. And then
I'm telling you too, in You, her little role in season 2 of You, pretty good too.
I forgot about that too. Yeah, so like I think she's accomplished a lot she's 20 years old, accomplished a lot in a very short amount of time. I think my
also
only
impressive
caveat, I don't want her to get too typecast though, because like I can see, I mean, she's on Wednesday, and I feel like that's why Tim Burton thought she would have a similar vibe for Beetlejuice 2, which is why she's in that.
Yep.
I forgot she's gonna be good in that.
I can really see her getting stuck playing the sullen.
She's the next Helena Bonham Carter.
Yeah, and like
holy shit.
And she seems like she has more range than that. So like, not saying that Helena Bonham Carter.
Tim Burton found his replacement.
Yeah. But no, I don't really think she's overrated. I think it's
not
crazy.
Yet, anyway.
I think it's crazy that people freaked out because they caught her smoking in London. Like, there was like videos and like people were posting all over Twitter, like, "Oh my God, I can't believe she's doing that! Like, why would she do that?"
That's a weird thought, but like, who gives a shit? She's an adult,
and she's 20 years old, and they got her mom involved in it. Her mom like reposted some of the videos on her Instagram. I was like, "That's embarrassing."
What?
And she's probably like, "Mom, I'm paying your bills. Calm down."
Her mom didn't give a shit.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting, but no, I don't think she's overrated. I think there's potential for.
I think she's not far off from maybe being that, depending on what her next performances look like. But I think people are crazy about her, but I think she earns it.
Yeah, I believe so too. All right, on Twitter, if it's for you, Jackson, at the Lost River Drive #1 wants to know, did you have any reservations about joining the podcast? We're asked.
Not a single one. I was ecstatic. This is an opportunity like this was something that I feel like I had just been waiting for to happen. And so it's honestly like kind of like the stars kind of aligned. I don't know if I'd mentioned this on the podcast before, if this is just something that we'd had in personal conversation, but I had the idea of like doing something like this myself, but just had never really got it off the ground. Like the fact, to have joined two awesome guys that already had one going and welcomed me with open arms. I couldn't ask for anything better than that. I was, as Gaius mentioned earlier, was only an episode in between my guest appearance and then me coming on for the first time as a co-host. And I think that answers that question alone. Like I was very, very enthusiastic about joining. So no, not a single reservation.
Nice. Yeah, I think we
Great
talked
question.
about that.
Thank you for that.
I think we talked about that personally with each other. Like if you had any
yes, we'd had that, because that kind of rung a bell.
Because the funny story is I sent you the message about it right before my birthday, and then my birthday happened, and then Christmas happened, and then New Year's happened, and you had responded way earlier than when I had checked the message. So I had asked you, and then like there was like weeks, and I was like, oh shit, fuck, he's gonna think I like maybe didn't mean it. And like no. Like you're like, no, I still want to do it. Like, but yeah, there was like a gap in between me asking you and confirming it. But yeah, it worked out really well in the end.
Good stuff.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question.
One for all three of us. Which movie will be the biggest hit of the summer? I guess to put it in the context, we've already gotten Guardians, which is like at 784 million worldwide, and Across the Spider-Verse just opened to like $120 million over the weekend. Of course, we have 10 that's at like 604 worldwide, and then we have The Flash left, Transformers, RB, Mission Impossible, Oppenheimer. Those are the biggies that are left. A hard one for me to. I
think Spider-Verse is going to be the biggest because just in terms of box office, just because it's such a wide range of demographic that love it and can go see it. I mean, you're not going to take your little kids to go see Oppenheimer, so
you should though.
You should. But I think in terms of
twice.
In terms of box office, I think Spider-Verse will take the cake.
All right. Yes, I answered ahead of you last time, so you go ahead.
If you would have asked me like a week or two ago, I would have said The Flash because like I thought there was a lot of hype. There is hype. But it feels like it's kind of waning. I just found out that Ezra Miller might go to the premiere too, which is going to be really interesting because that'll be like be their first public appearance since all this stuff.
Interesting.
And box office tracking said it's going to open to 70 million, but that can always be wrong. I mean, I totally forgot about Mission Impossible. I think on a worldwide scale, Tom Cruise has a lot of love.
Yeah,
off of Maverick. Top Gun last year.
I wish I went ahead of you now.
I'm gonna go with Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1.
That's my pick too. That's what I was gonna go with too. And literally Maverick being a huge factor in that decision too. But I just watched Ghost Protocol the other day. God damn, those movies are fun. Like I'm gonna be watching.
It's so good.
It is so sick. So I have a lot of high hopes for Mission Impossible 7. I think there's a lot of love for that series. It's weird. Like I thought I'd go Oppenheimer, but now I think Mission Impossible just has more of that established appeal.
Totally.
Yeah.
Great. All right, for Owen at MD Film and Blog wants to know, even though you're not on the main show every week, will we see more of you on the main show every now and then within these next 100 episodes?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely think so. Love to be able to throw my opinion in the hat. Love Owen's opinions segment that we're getting in here. So there's some things that we guys are talking about that I'm listening to that I'm dying to share something. Then I'm definitely going to be reaching out and jumping on. So definitely be hearing a lot more of me.
Yes, nice. I like that answer. Glad to hear it. That's a good answer. All right, for me at Unsold Creatures wants to know.
I like that name.
Up really quick.
Unsold Creatures.
Did I always want to spin off the show? I cannot say that was a plan. That was a Hail Mary knee-jerk reaction to get back on the show. And it works. To the point where I didn't have to, we did our 1 year anniversary episode and I was getting ready to like pitch my idea and I didn't even get the idea out before he was like, yeah, I want to do it. And so no, it was I'm not saying that like there was thought that went into it, but it definitely was around November kind of thing. Did not plan it. I think it's funny that people wants to know if we want to spin off more, maybe in the future, but like, no, yeah, I wish I could say like, once we got to a year, like we would spin off the show, but nah, I mean, I'm glad that it happened the way it did, though. It's actually one of my favorite things about doing all this. Yeah, I agree. On Instagram at Bardwell123 for all of us, what's the oldest film you love?
I have an answer. I just want to clarify what year it came out.
I think I can answer that.
Also, shout out Bardwell because I don't know anything about them, but they are a huge supporter of our. I hear the name all the time from you.
Yeah.
So thank you for your question.
Try to see when this movie came out. Yep, it might be this one.
All right, it's with it because I got mine lined up.
It's off the cuff. It could change. At least Psycho. That's 1960. So I mean, I probably could go older, but that's the one that popped into my mind right now. You can't go wrong with Alfred Hitchcock. So.
Never can go wrong with Alfie. He's the man.
Yeah.
Me, just a few short years before you, Gaius, I'm going with Stanley Kubrick's The Killing from 1956.
You've mentioned that movie before.
What? Yeah,
I think you mentioned with me. Yeah,
it is just one of those early. I think it kind of laid the groundwork for what a lot of heists or robbery movies became, and it was one of like the earliest examples of like non-linear storytelling.
Yeah,
and just there's a lot to love in that movie. Early Kubrick. He's a genius. Love that movie to death. The Killing is awesome. Fantastic ending too. For those who have seen it, oh man, that last shot.
I need to see it. I haven't seen it. You brought it up before, and I've never.
It's awesome.
And I like Stanley Kubrick too. I mean, I know he's not for everyone, but
it's like 22, 23 making this movie. Like you're just seeing a genius
at
work, and it's just crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think I get most flack for not knowing, or I guess not really diving into older movies as much as I probably should. Like kind of like old Hollywood stuff.
It's a fascinating place.
I think the question favorite or oldest that I've just seen.
What's the oldest film you love?
Oh, okay.
So kind of both.
I guess kind of both. Yeah.
I got you guys both beat in terms of time frame.
Okay, let's go.
Modern Times, Charlie Chaplin, baby.
I've never seen any.
I've never seen it. I've never seen it either.
That's 33.
It's 36.
36. Wow. Got me by a whole 20 years.
It's good, man. It's good. It's just like funny. And
he is a great stuntsman.
Yeah, it's like ingenious. So yeah, does a good job.
Definitely got us beat. I can't all the way to 1936.
Yep.
All right, at Evan Hoffer on Twitter. Well, this is pretty good for all three of us. Do you want to live in a world of cinema that has the MCU or doesn't have the MCU?
Oh, has.
Yeah, I have to go with has, but I can see why this question got asked. I can see what you're saying about how it's oversaturating, probably.
I get it.
Yeah,
the market.
I will say I don't like what it's become. I don't,
yeah.
But I think that Disney Plus has something to do with that. I don't like the shows. I don't.
Disney as a corporation absolutely has a lot to do with that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
You can't even say no.
But you're telling me that in a world where the movie Iron Man wasn't made with Downey Jr. and Reed
or Endgame,
come on, like that movie.
I mean, yeah. When you think about Infinity War and Endgame, it's hard to argue against it. But like overall, I think it's just become something that I dislike so much. I would just have to go with no.
Business. It's become its own thing.
It's become so many things that I stand. But there's hard to knock against the good things that it has done. It's been a great experiment in what movie franchises can do, and there's don't get me wrong, there's good things about it, but I think what it has devolved into, I would have to go just no.
Look at you, hot
take. But then you get movies but then you get movies like Civil War, I'm like, or even Soldier, I'm like, damn man, but those are some of the best like comic book movies. But no, too many, too saturated, too agenda politicky, a lot of other things I could go. We can spend a whole episode talking about
they created post-credit scenes, and I want to fucking murder them for it.
They did make that pretty popular.
It's popular, definitely, but I like that aspect of a movie, especially like the Gray has a post-credit movie or post-credit scene actually, which doesn't mean it's after the MCU started, but one of those rare examples of movies that have them. But I look forward to a post-credit, especially when you don't know if there's going to be one, you happen to stick around for one. It's kind of fun. I'll credit them for popular.
I don't like having to wait. I mean, I guess on the one hand, I don't mind a mid-credit one. I like having to wait until all the way at the end. And I should like appreciate everyone's name in the credits and should stay and like
in a perfect world.
But sometimes like the credits are like be like 6-7 minutes long, depending on like
especially for a huge Marvel movie.
Yeah. I mean, I think you don't have much of an industry if you get rid of the MCU.
Really?
I mean, I think they kind of office wise, I think they kind of kept things alive for a little bit. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like
this is a much longer conversation.
It really is. It really is.
This is something.
Absolutely, we could go way. We should.
This ended up being a really good question though, because I can see
a fantastic question.
What they were trying to say. I mean, for this conversation, I keep it. Sure keep it. But yeah. Good question though.
Great question. That might spark a conversation for down the road, which I'm never too tired to talk about MCU or even just movies.
To John Lindstrom, for all three of us, what has been your favorite movie theater experience? Oh, that's funny because this kind of relates to the MCU for me. So,
Owen,
That's tough, man. I remember seeing The Force Awakens in one of the first like lie down theaters. Like the first time I could kind of like.
you guys have such better theaters than we have.
the reclining seats.
Oh, I don't see a movie where I can't lie down now. So like, I mean, yeah. So when I remember seeing it for the first time, and I was with my family, and I was like so excited, and it was just like such a cool, like seeing Star Wars again on the big screen. I was like, this is sick. So I remember seeing, even though like as the years have gone by, I'm like, I don't really love the story of that movie. But like just seeing that again in theaters for the first time while lying down, I was like, this is how movies are meant to be watched. It was cool.
Comfort.
Yeah.
Comfort.
All right, Gaius, hit us.
If I feel cheap saying it, but I don't think anything will top as far as like the overall like fun and excitement of the theater itself being packed and full of everyone that loved it. I don't think anything will top Avengers Endgame for me as far as
Endgame over
was going to be
War.
what yeah.
I
might change my pick to that.
Where like everyone was just so like universally in sync with that movie and cheering at all the right points, and like you could tell that everyone that saw that movie, it was a culmination of so many films they watched before, like ending with this. And I mean that came out in 2019, and I don't think that will happen again. I mean, I would love for that to happen again for me, but it seems pretty slim that I will recreate that experience.
I saw it in like this small theater right outside UCLA where there was probably like it was only like a singular theater, and it was all like kids who were and people who were all kind of around the similar age, and it was like laughing and crying and cheering, and like 3 hours went by quick. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, audience makes a movie like that for sure. I'm gonna say though, like Infinity War is where I slightly give the edge for those two movies. Like the ending of Infinity War, like the depressed, like unbelievable gut punch that movie ended on. I remember walking to the theaters like, holy shit, Spider-Man is dead. All these people are gone. Like, what the fuck? We don't even know. This is not what we thought. I thought we had like half an hour left when Infinity War ended. I was like, I cannot believe this is done. My favorite experience, though, just like one that I had to highlight. I kind of feel cheap going to it because I mentioned it earlier, and I wish I hadn't. But like, for me, like, there's never had a moment replicated like I did last like 20 minutes of Interstellar. That was an awakening experience, something that's like very hard to top. I won't elaborate too much on. I've already talked about it before, but that experience
I remember the girl next to me bawling her eyes out. Oh, like not like a quiet cry. I was like, okay, calm down. It's
Interstellar or in which way?
Like I was like, all right, calm down. It's like I get it. It's sad.
I cry every time I see Matthew cry when he's seeing his
scene. Is
my God, dude, I bawl my eyes out for that one.
The No Time for Caution sequence is phenomenal. Like when they have the dock endurance when it's spinning out of control, and the whole line where Powers says to Matt McConaughey, he goes, "Cooper, it's impossible," and he goes, "No, it's necessary." Oh my God, the chills down my spine when he says that line. There's so much to love in that theatrical experience. But
I need to watch that movie again. It's been a little while.
I like to space out my watches because I've seen it so many times. I haven't seen it in probably 2 or 3 years now. I want to put another couple of years in between it just so I can like try to experience it as close to the first time as I can again. Yeah, but it's hard.
Bray Wyatt fan for me, not so much a question but a suggestion. Even though I like seeing your movies rack whenever you post clips, I think the better angle is your movie posters that you used to do when the show first started. I did used to do it this way.
Yeah,
we started it, and I think I did it with Jackson one time that way, and kind of.
I've seen your posters in the back a few times.
Yeah,
rack.
I like the movie rack too. I mean, I get it. I guess the posters pop more, but I'll take your suggestion. Maybe I'll switch it up every so often.
I gotta slowly work on my backgrounds. I've been too lazy to flip my desk around lately when we've been recording, but I have a lot of different posters I could swap out here too. I love going off the posters.
Yeah,
it's just like 3 or 4 more. So okay, Patrick Brown, Owen, and I guys live basically in the same city. Why don't you record together?
This has been brought up before. Like a round table.
All right, so here's the deal. It could be done here, but like the living room at my place, even though it's big, it's not like the ambiance isn't like let's do a podcast in here.
Right.
My bedroom is too small to really accommodate two people. Owen is in like a one bedroom, and I think if you saw like the clip I posted of like him and his brother when his brother was on the deep dive episode, that's what it would be like. We would be sitting next to each other, just doing it that way.
Studio, unfortunately.
I do.
Maybe
I told Owen that I want to turn our guest room into a podcast studio.
Yeah,
I'll be. It's going to be quite the task.
Listen, we've talked about this for years now, so like we know.
We know.
I also think too, like there are some impromptu things with scheduling that like
it works out better this way.
It works out. We know what it's going to be like, so we can plan things. Like sometimes, like, hey, I just got home from work, I'm ready. Things like that, or like, hey, can we push it back 40 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever it is? So I think that this keeps us dynamic and fluid with when and how we can record. So it's worked out for us, but we're dying to record together, and we're gonna record the first live, like maybe even a live episode. Like who knows? We might do something.
I love that idea of a live episode, and when the time comes that I traverse the United States and get over there, I should absolutely like book an Airbnb or a hotel conference room. Some episodes. Yeah,
that is a sweet idea.
We just like let's crank out a couple, like just stop.
Like spend a day just recording a bunch of different videos and like post them. You know what I mean?
That sounds amazing.
Definitely want to do something like that.
So yeah,
that episode would be sick too.
A live one would be good. It's in our future though. Yeah, I've actually been asked this a lot. They're like, yeah, hang out. Like, yeah, I know. It's just like it's not conducive for doing it's logistics. We've definitely thought about it, and we know it would be fun to do together in the same room. But yeah, you know. We're giving you what we can for now. This measuring the score on Twitter, and it's very fitting because they're a podcast that talks about movie scores. They want to know what our favorite film score is.
Oh, I think I already said something. Inception's one of my favorite, but then Lord of the Rings easily.
Oh man, is that Howard Shore, right?
Howard Shore.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, unbelievable.
This is hard.
I was quick on that one.
You were quick. You knew you had a backup too. You even had a backup.
Yeah.
Just in case. You're like, that's a hard one.
Ooh, I'm
trying.
I'm one of those guys. I don't know about you guys. I love scores are one of my favorite components of a movie. Like the good ones, the ones that resonate with me, I will download on Spotify. I have a whole folder of just movie scores. And like looking at it, like off the top of my head, the most I have are from Interstellar. But I'm gonna stop talking about this movie for a second and like go with something else. But it would undoubtedly be something Hans Zimmer. Like I'd say maybe 12 Years a Slave. The song Solomon from that movie is like the one that gets me. Like it's such a beautiful piece of music. I would just listen to it on in the car on the way to work. It's something I love to listen to. So I'll switch it up a little bit. Still with Hans Zimmer. He's the GOAT, but I'll probably go with that. I think after talking about this, I'll have something different in my head and I'll wish I had said that. But
Michael Giacchino has some great stuff too. He does some great stuff. The Incredibles soundtrack.
Didn't he do the Batman? He did the
Batman as well.
Oh yeah, that's why I recognize that name.
So like, dude, he's been in the game for a while, yeah. But like, dude, just the jazz and all the stuff from The Incredibles is amazing.
Yeah. All right, so I'm like Jackson. This could change tomorrow. I'm just gonna go like sentimental kind of favorite. I love Danny Elfman's a lot of stuff he does for Tim Burton. Scissorhands is probably one of my favorite scores.
I'm so due for a rewatch of that.
Stance in particular, that one piece of music where Winona Ryder's actually dancing underneath while he's like shaving the ice sculpture is a really beautiful piece of music. So I'm just going to go with that, but that could definitely change tomorrow. Because there's a lot of, you guys mentioned Hans Zimmer. I mean, so many good big scores that he does. And so yeah, that's a hard one, but
Johan Johannesson did the Arrival soundtrack, and the Arrival soundtrack is unbelievable.
There's actually, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was thinking about the closing moments of Arrival where everything kind of comes together. The music swells during that part of the movie. Yeah, like when you were talking about like, cerebral, and like so many people have said like, well, does cerebral sci-fi movies, do they make money? I'm always like, well, Arrival did. I mean, so it's possible. That was my favorite movie of the year that it came out.
That was great. 2016. That was a fantastic year. That movie was amazing. I have a score from Arrival too, but it's not from the composer. It's like another piece of music that was just featured in it. And I think it's in Split as well, but it's On the Nature of Daylight by Max Richter. That's a fantastic piece of movie music as well. For those that know it or don't worth.
All right, for all three of us, the horror's edge. It's more of an observation, but I like when you guys casually razz on each other, like when Jackson hadn't seen Batman, or when Owen made fun of you for about Charlie St. Cloud, or made fun of you about saying that you could watch a movie over again to be E.T.
That's not a bad choice. Or Breaking Bad, dude.
Or when Jackson said you've never seen Breaking Bad.
Yes, man.
I actually like those moments too, because they're not planned. They kind of happen purely by accident.
Well, because we do
That's
that.
a true fan right there.
We do that.
Just each other like consistently. So
I remember when I said ET, like we were in person, you're like, "What?"
I was like, "Dude, seriously?"
And then we recorded.
I remember this now. Yeah.
And then we recorded the 1 year episode. And he's like, "What movie did you say? What movie was it? ET? Yeah, ET. That's such a stupid answer."
Dude. We'll be dissing ET.
Yeah, and then the Charlie
saying that if you could watch one movie forever for the rest of time.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't. But can't go wrong with Spielberg. Just watched actually Bridge of Spies the other day. Speaking of him, I remember that was awesome. But
yeah, and
love Raz and the boys. So
and the Charlie St. Cloud thing, that was just
dude, that's one of the hardest I've laughed in.
I couldn't even explain the plot without laughing. So I mean, that was justified. And then when I tried to double down and say like more about the plot, like Owen just it.
This was what episode were you guys when that come up? Because I listened to that recently. I remember this conversation.
It was episode 2 of the deep dive. It was for Igby Goes Down, because the director of
longer ago than I thought.
Yeah, the director of that movie directed Charlie St. Cloud.
Okay.
Owen was like, "Oh, is that a Nicholas Sparks movie?" I was like, "No, it's this movie where like Zac Efron's little brother dies and he comes back to life." It could
be a Nicholas Sparks movie. It totally fits his.
That's what I
like ingredients. Has all the ingredients of a Nick Sparks movie. But no, I remember listening to that.
And I was like, and there's a twist ending, and I was like, "Oh, cool."
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Kind of sad though. I'm with you, Gaius. I didn't like it as much on rewatch a few years ago, and I probably won't watch it again. But I got a soft spot for parts of that movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you have a brother, I mean, you're like, you have to feel something watching it.
Especially like when he's leaving them. Oh,
yeah.
It's a heart stringer for sure.
Don't take that back at all, whatsoever. And one of these last questions, because it kind of segues into the I asked you guys, from my friend David Park. He said, "What are some goals you have for the next 100 episodes? Like, what do you want to do with the show in the future?" Let's start.
Yeah, no, I think live episodes, doing it with together, that would be really cool to kind of see the difference in what the conversation might be like when we can kind of read each other's body language a little bit more. And then also just like love seeing things progress and finding new ideas and new segments to do. So never stray away from new ideas. If we like something and do it, then we're going to continue to do it. So just want it to continue to change and continue to develop. I think that's great. I love what we have going on right now, but this show wouldn't be what it is today if it didn't develop. So I want to continue to see some good change.
Yeah.
Gaius, I'll leave this. I'll let you cap it off. Just
okay.
So I'll add in quickly. Like, yeah, I would love to see. I'd like ideally, like in the next 50, 100 episodes, go back and look at this episode and think about how much we have grown since this one. And I think we can really do that by maybe like working with some other podcasts or companies, like movie adjacent, sort of like people that do what we do, like secure some partnerships and stuff would be awesome. I'd really like the idea of doing like some other stuff we could release in between episodes, like throughout the week, like smaller video format or audio formatted stuff, like reels in a sense, where we can just like kind of touch on stuff we didn't on other episodes. But even like stuff, it doesn't have to be news. Like there's a lot of room for material there. And yeah, just reaching out to other platforms would be a really cool idea too. But yeah, I really like the idea of working. Like I liked that, can't remember the term off the top of my head, Gaius, you said it earlier, but our like ad sharing that we did with Bev's video.
Other promo swap. Exactly.
Yeah. I like to do it, like working with other people and getting our name out there to other potential and future fans that don't know us yet. Honestly, like we really appreciate it. I know that we've no doubt our audience has expanded because of our listeners that put their friends and other people on us. So we really appreciate you guys for that, and a lot of room to work with going forward with that too. Which is something
I just had an idea. I think it would be cool for a little small segment. Could call it something like Take Two, where it's like we've heard the episode or something. We come back, and we're like, I wish I'd said this, and like,
oh my god, that's
actually really good.
A little development where it's like, hey, I was listening to this and I had another idea. It could be like
point happy every episode.
every episode.
Yeah.
It could be
I'm like, shit, I forgot
like
this.
take 2, Margaret.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good idea. Actually, like that idea a lot. I definitely think the live show is a really good idea. I want to do the whole YouTube thing is the next logical step. Because I was actually asking, I mean, there's certain podcasts I just listen to, and then there's certain ones I will watch on YouTube because I like to see them interacting with each other. So like, I kind of think that is another way that we could be discovered by more people.
Yeah.
I want to do more of like interview style format, like I did with Films at Home December, where we actually maybe invite people on who are either other influencers, other YouTube people, other if someone's making like student films or stuff like that, if they want to like talk about their stuff, like having more of like a conversation. Even when we had Ty on for Fast and Furious, like him talking about his initial stuff, how he got into acting and all that stuff, I thought that was a good conversation.
I had a blast talking with Ty. We've been sending each other memes and stuff since on Instagram, like movie related stuff. Like it's nice. Like another friend.
Yeah. So like I think that would be a really fun thing to do to kind of switch things up. I think the collaboration thing, I mean, what we learned from like having guests and stuff on, I think that's really important moving forward. And of course, you know, now that we're at 100 episodes, like we've all talked about this like privately, but like I want to get through this first, like this milestone first, but like we're gonna start like kind of divvying up responsibilities a little bit. What person wants to do, you know, certain tasks, so it's not one person. I think that'll really help in the end when it comes to like, all right, like we can partner with this person. Let's do this. I reached out to this person, like this company, whatever. Like we really want to start doing stuff like that within the next, you know,
absolutely, especially as we grow and got more stuff too. It's only natural,
right? And actually, yeah, and then I totally liked Jackson's idea when he pitched it about the shorter form episodes, because there's certain times where I'm like, oh, like that trailer dropped right after we recorded, and we could have talked about it then, but now like a whole week will go by. And can we still talk about it? Will it still be like as relevant? And like able to do like a really short thing in between, I think would be a good idea too.
Yeah.
Playlist is happy with all the content we push out.
They're like, give us more.
Well, I've been like, hey, are we giving you too much? When there's been times where we've released 3 episodes in the week. If you count like the spinoff and the normal show plus an anniversary episode, there's been like 3 in a week sometimes, and they're just like, no, you guys are really good. I had some stats from them that I just wanted to share right now because like talking about the future and stuff. When Jackson got on, and this has actually changed a bit because I got this from them 3 weeks ago. Actually, maybe a little longer now. We were at 40-something thousand downloads when Jackson got on. We posted that one graph that playlist gave us.
42.
42. We're now at over 60,000 downloads since. And it's probably increased since then because it's been almost a month since I got this from them. We're doing better with the ladies. Went up.
Okay.
There's a funny story there why it dropped, but I'm glad to get them back. It's a capacity. Apple Podcast is clearly our bigger form that people listen on, but Good Pods is getting up there, and Spotify has actually increased a lot recently too. We're also really big. 18 to 34 is like the big age range for us. Most of our listeners are in US. It's at like 1.8% are in Canada, so I think you're bringing those people.
Okay, 1.8%. Okay.
Vast majority are them in the US, and then we have some K listeners as well.
No way. Love it.
And like I said earlier, they playlists, and they are also the biggest podcasts on their platform. As far as all the shows that they have are on their podcast network, are still their most successful show overall. So that's very encouraging, and they are very happy with. They think the spinoff had a lot to do with it. They said bringing Jackson on had a lot to do with it. They said we've seen continued growth, basically from the moment you popped on and we started the spinoff. There hasn't been a decline. There's just been like the up and up. So I want to share that with you guys before we give some shit away to our listeners. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. Those numbers are just really encouraging. I think that's awesome.
Very much
and because I look at what other people who started around, like, and this is not, a dig or anything. It's, I guess it depends. Sometimes it depends on your niche and like what you're talking about in your podcast. But there has been certain shows I've like looked on Twitter and they've been doing it for over a year, and they're like, oh, like I have like 5,000 downloads, but they're still like trucking along and doing it because they're having fun doing it. But it's just like everyone's gonna be in a different position doing this.
Right.
And then I look at other, like Antonio started his podcast right around the time that we did. He turned 100 episodes like not too long ago too. And it's interesting to see all these people that have been on the show, who are listening to the show, like that doing this around the time that we started. And it seems like having the same level of like growth on that same level too. So that's
love it.
Really
Love
cool,
to support
really cool
our
thing.
fellow podcasters.
And the film and fermentation podcast, they shouted us out on their episode today. I listened to it. They shouted
No way.
Their episode at episode 108. They recently turned 100. They shouted us all out specifically. They named all three of us and congratulated us on hitting 100 episodes.
Thanks, guys.
That was awesome. Thank you, guys.
It was really cool too. I just want to make sure I got them in as well before I spin this virtual wheel to see who's gonna win these two prizes. What would you want? I mean, I've never mind, Jackson. I know which one you would want. If you
Criterion.
I'm not gonna ask you. Do you want the fast movie collection, or do you want?
That would look cool too. That'd be a good collectible to have. I only have the first Fast and Furious on Blu-ray, so Ring Bull, the Criterion. Yeah.
All right. So the first one we're going for is the Fast and Furious 4K movie collection.
That is a prize.
That is a prize.
And
that's a big one.
So I'm gonna spin this wheel here. Oh shit! It's gonna make some noise. All right. At the mixed reviews actually wins the Fast and Furious movie collection. And here's how I think we should make it fair. We'll hear it and then we'll post it on socials. You'll have to reach out to us with your information so we can send it to you. I'll give you like a week, but if we don't hear from you in a week, then we'll probably have to announce another winner on like our next episode just to make it fair.
Right.
Just to make it fair. So congratulations!
Well, congratulations, guys!
To the mixed reviews, and now for the Raging Bull, the one that Jackson wants, 4K Criterion collection.
I'm happy for both winners, no doubt. But if this one goes unclaimed, I know someone who would definitely take it.
You're like you.
I do have Raging Bull on DVD though, so can't be greedy.
All right, at BTI_pod. I mean, I'm sure you pronounced it a different way, but you won the Raging Bull 4K.
Congratulations!
Well done. That whole spin, I didn't know it was going to work out so much like this. This was the different one from what I used for our questions. I didn't realize it was going to make noise and have applause, but
see, I couldn't hear any noise.
I couldn't hear it either.
So.
Oh, good. Oh, so it
was all you, man.
All right, cool. So it made it seem like we were actually made something away very live and
nice.
Yeah, that is it? Wow.
Well, yeah, big thanks to everybody that participated in that too, because that no doubt is good for growth, and can see us doing something like that again, maybe for another milestone.
Yeah.
So look forward to something like that again. And if there's anything that you guys have like suggestion wise, giveaway, don't be shy.
Yeah, those were some good gifts. So good luck topping that.
Sure. Yes. And I also think will be, less selfish when I get free things for G Reels. I will sacrifice it and offer it up to Back to the Blockbuster
to our guests and listeners.
Instead, something like really cool. No,
keep the stuff you want for sure.
Thank you guys. This is amazing. We've been building up to this for a very, very long time. I am very happy.
I can't believe it's over.
I know I've done this with the both of you. I do 100 more, man. That's
cheers. I wish I had a drink right now.
100 more.
100 more. So that's gonna be this is gonna grow the way we want it to grow. I am glad it's with both of you guys, because you're both very dedicated to making it succeed. Someone like Owen, who's been there from the beginning, and then someone like Jackson, who kind of hopped in, either seen it from Tumble start, heard about all the ins and outs of how things changed over time. But
you'll see. You'll see it in your own way.
Yeah, we wouldn't be where we are now if we didn't go through all of that. So I think it's a much better show. Friendships are much better because of it. So I am very happy by the experience overall. It's been a blast. It's for
Couldn't agree
almost
more.
Very blessed.
almost 2 years and 100 episodes. So that's amazing.
Crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, somber one. Yeah, Jackson.
Congratulations to the team.
I guess this is your show, so you can sign us out, Jackson.
Sure thing, guys. Well, man, I can't
Taking
believe
the limelight, man.
it's actually time. I don't know how long this one ran us, but guys, thank you very much for listening to probably the most special episode of Back to the Blockbuster with episode 100. Milestone for us today. We've been very grateful for all of you guys that have followed us along the way. And for those of you who are just joining us, get ready for 100 more. We got lots more coming at you guys in the future. We're not stopping now. This has been another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with all three of us here, Owen, Gaius, and myself. You guys can follow us and anywhere on social media and where you guys get your podcasts at Back to the Blockbuster. Stay tuned for lots more information on our socials coming at you in the next coming weeks. And guys, as always, a very special privilege being able to talk about the things that we love together on the podcast. So thanks for all this. It's been a great last half of the year, and it's been a fantastic 100 episodes.
It has. Don't forget to tune into the deep dive.
That's right.
Yeah. He's like, don't forget my show too.
That's all you.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. Guys, peace
out, guys.